FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for three! And you're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
93.7 The Ticket veteran and Ortega connoisseur, Jake Bakoven.
I like Ortega and I like pepper.
Coming at you live from the Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Hold up.
Ticket water cooler portion of the show for the first hour every week, every show, I should say, as we go in here, trying to get my voice up. I don't know if you can hear me too well. Big Sky back in the studio, of course, the super producer, as always, helping me out there. Can you hear me a little bit better now, Big Sky?
I mean, if you can get any louder, that'd be great. You're really quiet.
All right. I will continue to try to get a little bit louder here. I'm, of course, back in at my house, the Bakoven household, once again, as I'm finishing off a few days here of sitting out due to the virus that has struck my family. We're all good, though. We are not having any problems anymore as far as headaches or anything like that. So kind of sitting through it like the rest of the nation. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you and your loved ones out there. But at least for me, I'm blessed to say that no big problems have come out of it. We're just working from home. So it's kind of a weird week, and the first time that I've gone kind of through that. So I feel like I'm zooming back to 2020 and working from home, but it's nice to get that opportunity. I think that it's today, probably the biggest news is the Nebraska schedule being changed. The Big Ten announced plenty of changes happening from that COVID-stricken year of 2020, kind of threw off the home in ways that teams were playing. I'm glad, more so than anything I've said for years, and it started, I believe, last year, is that Iowa and Wisconsin no longer are either both home and both away for Nebraska. Of course, again, like I said, it started last year, but I always thought that those were the teams that are going to compete the most in the Big Ten West. When you talk about program stability between Nebraska and well, that was the plan. Obviously, Nebraska really hasn't done that part, but Iowa and Wisconsin, those are the teams that are kind of built to be up there in the Big Ten West. So I thought it'd be nice to get that separated. And of course, that's where they are. If you haven't gotten a chance to look at it, Nebraska's schedule not changed too much, but the bye weeks moved around. That Wisconsin game originally was set to be played on the road once again, and now that has flipped. The Purdue game, kind of the reverse, was set to be played at home. That one has flipped as well. So kind of a different setup here for Nebraska. We'll run through it. Of course, August 27th, Northwestern in Dublin, Ireland is the week 0 game. Nebraska will be taking part in that again. And I don't know. I mean, it's going to be just about as much on the line as there was last year, this time in a different country and all that. But the Illinois game certainly took a lot of wind out of the sails for Nebraska football fans going into last year. Going to have to be the same type of scenario where you're going to have to beat Northwestern across the pond. But I think they'll be able to do that, hopefully. And that kind of leads you to your next few games here. And that's kind of the read from all the schedule release is that Nebraska is going to have a chance to get on, jump on top early and get some games that you would describe as winnable here. The non-conference schedule has not changed, as wouldn't be expected. September 3rd against North Dakota, September 10th against Georgia Southern, September 17th at home against Oklahoma, your big non-con battle there. Then the bye week, of course, is slated in September 24th. That's a change from the original schedule. Then you have homecoming October 1st against Indiana, at Rutgers October 8th, at Purdue October 15th, and then the bye week October 22nd to set you up for a final 5-game stretch of Illinois, Minnesota, at Michigan, Wisconsin, and at Iowa. Clearly, the schedule gets more difficult as it goes on, but you look at those, the first 6 games there, you could expect, you could hope for Nebraska, and we do this every year. You start counting victories and you point out different winnable games. Nebraska coming off a 3-9 season. It's a little bit more difficult to do that, but certainly there is that possibility in this, and the schedule is easier by design there for Nebraska, and getting a little help there from the Big Ten. When you look overall, like we always like to do kind of before the season at the Big Ten West race, Nebraska has one of the more favorable schedules in the Big Ten West, I would say, as well. So, Big Sky, as you look at that schedule release, did it do anything for you? I know you're not too much of an optimist for this upcoming season or for the Scott Frost regime altogether, but at least some of the games look winnable, and maybe you can get some momentum going in the first half of the year.
Well, as I told Nick Sainert on the water cooler last week, when we were filling in for you the day you were out, I think that it's an easier schedule than this year, just on the principle that you don't have to face the top 3 teams in the Big Ten East as your crossover games. And so just given that fact, it'll be easier, and you should expect a little bit more success than 3 wins. Obviously, the benchmark is 6 to 7 wins to retain the current staff. And I think that is certainly doable. And I think it's doable within the first 9 games of the season to get to 7 wins. So.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I don't know. I mean, everybody in kind of Husker land feels differently about what maybe should have been done, what needs to be done moving forward. Are you taking a step forward simply by getting more wins, or is that due to the schedule getting easier for you? Is that enough? So I think you're right. I think that it has to be. A lot of kind of people are trying to circle that 7-win mark, no longer trying to just get to 6-6 and just get to a bowl game. Although I think that might be just enough, in my opinion. I think that the idea is to, of course, try to move the goalpost, try to eventually, you're going into year 5, try to aim for above 500, because that's what Nebraska's been doing for years. I got to say, coming off of 3-9, I don't know if that's the time to move the goalposts forward, especially losing a lot from your big kind of super senior class. A couple guys leaving early as well. It's a brand new team. So I'll continue to say, I think that they were close last year, but close doesn't really help you moving forward when you lose a lot of those players. And obviously close doesn't get you anything in the win column either. So, it wasn't all that helpful to begin with, but I don't know if this current team is close, or the team that they're rebuilding now is as close as last year's team. I wouldn't expect it to be. But the schedule did play a big factor in what Nebraska dealt with last year. I think at least you would hope so. Obviously, they played a lot of those difficult games, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Michigan States, the Oklahomas, of course, and then the Big Ten West. You kind of run through that. But they also lost a lot of those games that wouldn't have counted toward the daunting schedule that was there. So that was part of the problem. But in any case, you look at that schedule, especially the crossovers at Michigan, at Rutgers, and Indiana. That's pretty favorable. Michigan, the best team in the Big Ten East last year, obviously winning that division, winning the conference overall. But you have to expect them to take a little bit of a step back, at least from being the playoff contender that they were this year. You look at the early preseason top 25s, you got to, you would figure that they would drop back just because of some of the losses that they have there, moving on to the pros. Aiden Hutchinson, of course, David Ajabo. I mean, some of those guys are just moving on, and they made them what they were this year. So that game is not as terribly daunting as you look at the, kind of the early top 25 projections have the Ohio States and the Michigan States of the world ahead of Michigan right now. So, and you never know how to play out. Of course, that can change. Michigan State, I think, especially with losing Kenneth Walker, they did get that bowl win against Pitt. So maybe that helped a lot of people feel better about them. But their secondary was a problem all year, and it was very much exposed against Ohio State. So Nebraska misses them, but I'm not sure if they're actually the second best team in the Big Ten East. But in any case, you look at some of the other schedules, as almost everybody was kind of affected by the schedule change. Not much, slight tweaks to everybody's schedules. You look at some of the other contenders in the Big Ten West. I mean, Wisconsin, they've got it tough. At Ohio State and at Michigan State are 2 of their crossovers. And then they close the season at Iowa, at Nebraska, and against Minnesota. So Wisconsin, who is kind of just the favorite by default every year. And of course, Braylon Allen returning. I mean, they've got some reasons to be pretty good. That defense, you expect to be good every year. That's a difficult schedule. Iowa finally has to play some crossovers that are difficult against Michigan and at Ohio State in the same year. Iowa has been able to avoid that seemingly since the beginning of Nebraska joining the Big Ten. I mean, I don't know how, but Iowa's been kind of rubbing the right elbows there in the Big Ten West. or in the Big Ten meetings, I should say, because they haven't had to face too difficult of a schedule. And that showed up last year too. That's probably why they won the Big Ten West. But in any case, they've got a difficult schedule. Minnesota has at Michigan State, at Penn State, and then, by the way, in the Big Ten West, at Wisconsin and at Nebraska. So that's going to be a bit daunting for them. Purdue probably has the best schedule, maybe along there with Nebraska, if you consider Nebraska a contender. Purdue, of course, is going to lose a few of their guys, George Karlaftis and David Bell, likely first-round draft picks. Aiden O'Connell, though, the All-Big Ten quarterback, will be returning for his sixth season, and so that could be pretty big for them. They do start with Penn State in week 1, but then their crossovers from there are at Maryland and at Indiana. And then obviously they do play the Big Ten West. You have to play a few away games there at Minnesota and at Wisconsin will be part of their schedule. But as you break down some of the schedules, I think sometimes we get too much into it, especially if you're breaking down most divisions. But in the Big Ten West, I think it plays a big factor. All these teams kind of grouped together by the end of last season. If you look at the final polls, Iowa was 22nd. Purdue, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, all in others receiving votes, about 26th, 27th, 28th, all lumped right there. And of course, Nebraska not there with their 3-9 record, but played close games with all of them. I think the Big Ten West scheduling is a big deal. So, sometimes we overlook that and overanalyze it in the offseason, and we certainly will. But just based on the schedules, I think just looking at schedules, I think Nebraska and Purdue are set pretty good there.
I'd like to circle back to something you said about 3.5 minutes ago, and that was kind of disrespecting Michigan, saying that they're going to take a step back from a college football playoff a berth this year. And I think that's somewhat of a odd way to look at it when they're bringing in the 9th-ranked recruiting class, and in the last 3 years have gone 13, 10, and 8. So the roster that they're building is a talented roster, and I think it would be a little bit foolish for Nebraska fans to think that it's going to be such a step back that they are not still very close to the team they were this year. I think the biggest loss that could potentially happen to Michigan is Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL. And even then, they have a guy in Josh Gaddis as their offensive coordinator who is still there and completely transformed that team and made them into the college football playoff contender that they are this year. He's still there. And so I think it's going to be a tough game regardless of what departures they have, both personnel and coaching wise. So I don't want to give Nebraska fans artificial hope. I don't want to be selling fake Kool-Aid out here with the way Michigan's performed and the talent they already have in house.
Well, we know. I mean, we everybody saw Michigan up close. Of course, that one at Memorial Stadium. Next year, you have to go to Ann Arbor, but only losing by 3. I don't think Husker fans are going to be overwhelmed by the recruiting classes or anything that you can say there. Of course, by the end of the year, Michigan was probably playing better ball than they were to begin the year. But I mean, it's hard to say that. I mean, they were going undefeated, especially through that Nebraska run. I mean, I agree with you. I think that they've been solid. I'm not trying to sell Michigan out here. I'm just saying, if you look at the Big Ten West, it's always tough. And Michigan did come out of it finally beating Ohio State, but I don't think that they supplant Ohio State just because of that victory as the preseason favorite going into next year, especially considering the personnel that Ohio State does bring back with the likes of Jackson Smith and Jigba and, of course, C.J. Stroud. And then, obviously, if you want to compare recruiting classes, I'm sure Ohio State Buckeyes fans would be happy to do that with Michigan as well. The one that I would agree with you is that once you start getting down to the Big Ten East scale there is that Michigan State is seen as a preseason top 10 team. I just would need to see more out of their defense to believe in that with Kenneth Walker leaving. I mean, I think that they're a solid team. I like that the fact that they signed the huge extension, kept their head coach in town. He was very much, one of the top names for some of these top jobs, but I don't know if it necessarily translates right away next year. And the Kenneth Walker thing is absolutely fascinating to me because I think that people have going through this portal and this offseason, the whole idea is we've got to find the next Kenneth Walker. I can't wait to see this portal play out because I don't know if more years than not there's going to be a Kenneth Walker, a player at that position that is the best in his country, the best in the country by season's end that is grabbed out of the portal. I think that there will be great. There always will be someone who is the best addition out of the portal. I just don't know if that's first team All-American status at running back or that sort of thing. So, I mean, obviously, you have Caleb Williams, you have, pass rushers even today leaving TCU are all Big 12. You have high profile guys leaving, even higher profile than Kenneth Walker was leaving Wake Forest. But I'm not sure there's always going to be a Kenneth Walker in the transfer portal.
Well, I think Michigan State thinks they already got their replacement in Jalen Berger, the former four-star high school transfer from Wisconsin to Michigan State. So I think Michigan State's feeling good about themselves. And Berger is a guy that maybe didn't show Jonathan Taylor ability at Wisconsin, but he showed the ability to be a Big Ten running back at Wisconsin. It's just you had a guy like Braylon Allen who came out of nowhere from the linebacker position, who turned out to be a highly skilled running back himself, and so he kind of forced Berger out up in Madison. So I don't think Michigan State's going to take a huge step back either. But I'm glad that you mentioned how difficult it is to win against any team in the Big Ten because it's such a deep conference and a high quality conference, more so than the SEC. I'm glad you brought that up, Bach.
I don't want to get it twisted that I'm not a Big Ten fan. I follow the Big Ten all year round. My former show with Tom and Bach, we did a Big Ten Blitz. We love the Big Ten. I mean, it's harder to find a bigger fan of that. Now, I will say this. If Nebraska was offered to join the SEC, I think they should probably run that way. I mean, because the future of this sport, I think, is going to ultimately boil down to, and it's sad, it's different, it's not the way that we expected it, or predicted or wanted it to be. But I think it might come down to the teams at more of like an NFL type of idea where there's maybe 35, 40 teams. Is that going to be in two conferences, in one conference? If it's one conference that takes over, I think it might be the SEC. But if it's two conferences, you have kind of an AFC, NFC type of deal going down the line. Maybe, I think the Big Ten could be that other side. You just can't be, I guess at times, the what should I say, the Eastern Conference in the NBA, right? Where the Western Conference is just stacked, and then the winner out of the East can go and lose to the Western Conference team.
Whoa, Bach. I believe my Milwaukee Bucks came out of the East last year and won the NBA Finals. So pump the brakes there on this superiority complex you have going for the SEC and the Western Conference in the NBA.
Oh, I definitely don't go for the Western Conference either. This is a bit of a dated reference, probably mid-2000s, going into, kind of the Lakers run there. That's when the West was just dominant and the East just kind of had a team. And then, of course, you kind of went through that with LeBron while he was there, and they could win a title here and there, which whatever East team he wanted to be on. But the West was difficult to get in the playoffs. I mean, you sometimes had teams well above 500 getting the 8th seed, where in the East you had teams below 500 filling out the 6th and 7th and 8th seed. So that's not a hot take, but it is a bit outdated because things have caught up a little bit, and especially with the Bucks winning this last year.
We can't forget the Big Ten, ACC, and Pac-12 alliance either, the scheduling alliance.
Yeah, that's more of a handshake deal than any money being passed around. So I'm not sure how that turns out, but it is something that's what I'm talking about in the long run is the Big Ten. I mean, the SEC, obviously, we're all kind of waiting for the world post Oklahoma, Texas joining the SEC. What's it going to look like moving forward? Are we going to continue with this Power Five, or are the top teams, especially in the days of the NIL, going to start separating themselves even more? And then you kind of break it down to what places care. What are the biggest stadiums? Where's the biggest fan bases? Who's bringing in the most money that can compete in those NIL days? I hope that college football stays the way it is, where the little guy can get the big upset, and that's all the fun and why I love the regular season and all this stuff about college football. But I've buried my head into the idea, knowing that college football is going to change, and we'll see how it changes in the years to come. The SEC and the Big Ten are odds-on favorite, the best to stick around and maybe not get eaten up by the other conferences because they have the best, again, TV contracts because of the interest in the sport in those regions, the biggest stadiums, all that stuff that goes into it. But I do envision a day where the Big Ten is going to have to make a decision, either sell out and join the SEC and just become the one giant league that is maybe inevitable in the future of college football, or compete and be on the other side as a kind of a crossover division or whatever. Like I said, what that you have with the NFL right now, and I think by that time you'll have to at least. I mean, you have to win some of these battles. You can't watch Notre Dame go to the SEC or some of these teams, that we're kind of waiting to see the next big movement in realignment. And hopefully, for all our sake, that won't be for a while. But for many people, they'd love to see college football kind of get shaken up a little bit more. It seems like every season's going to be a little bit different than the last. But we'll take a break. We are on the Ticket Water Cooler here on the block with Strick and Bach. Eric Strickland, of course, the longtime NBA vet, Husker Hall of Famer, will be joining us at the top of the hour. We also have Mitch Sherman set to join us at 4:25 of The Athletic, and Andy Markowski will join us around 5:25. So we have a full show today. But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about some movement that kind of speaking about movement around in the NCAA and Texas moving on to the SEC. The Texas-Nebraska ties have been weird the last couple of days. Of course, Casey Thompson joining Nebraska over as a quarterback of the football team. And now Jordan Larson, who, I mean, we've talked about before building a statue for Jordan Larson, former Olympian and Nebraska volleyball great, now joining Texas to take an assistant coaching job there. We'll break that down and kind of get your thoughts on if you can cheer for the Horns or if it's always going to be Longhorns down here in Lincoln, Nebraska. We'll talk about that next year on the block on 93.7 The Ticket.
You hear that? That's the sound of extremely tender and delicious beef from Certified Piedmontese. Prime grade tenderness with a fraction of the fat and calories of normal beef. It's Nebraska-raised product and the official beef of Nebraska Athletics. Change the way you buy beef today at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese, just north of 84th and Havelock, or at cpmercado.com.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric ensures our home and office HVAC systems run smoothly throughout the year to provide maximum comfort and convenience. Routine maintenance reduced our operating costs just by improving the efficiency of our unit. Consider a maintenance agreement to ensure you too receive priority for services and scheduling. This helps meet manufacturer warranty requirements. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
Parents, if you've been waiting for FDA approval to get your teen vaccinated, the time is now. The FDA has approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for use in preventing COVID-19. While this is the first vaccine to gain FDA approval, all COVID-19 vaccines have been proven to be effective against the coronavirus. Want to reduce your teen's risk of hospitalization while protecting yourself and your community? Get your teen vaccinated today. Visit vaccinate.ne.gov to get started.
This is Dan Friedman. In recent years, over 1/3 of all Nebraska traffic crashes have been caused by drivers aged 15 to 19. If you're a teen driver, don't become another statistic. Keep your eyes on the road. And if you're a parent, please remember that safe driving habits start with you. This message is brought to you by Friedman Law Offices. For almost 60 years, helping injured people. It's what we do. It's all we do. Find us at friedmanlaw.com today.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too, and that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. But our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more. When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it. We get to serve in our own region and help the people we call neighbors. Whether they are in the mountains of New Mexico, the plains of Nebraska and Kansas, the ranches of Oklahoma and Texas, the farmlands of Missouri and Arkansas, or the bayous of Louisiana, we are here for our hometowns. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
What does better service mean? At Allo, it means that you get the best fiber internet available at prices that work for you. Better service means installers who show up on time. Better service means no billing shenanigans. Better service means a real person answers the phone. If you're not paying for better service, what are you paying for? Get Allo. get better service. Switch today at allofiber.com/better service.
They say one great thing leads to another, and that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a Ready Next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's gonna be great.
Have you been told your furnace has a cracked heat exchanger? Before you spend money needlessly, call Bryant for a free second opinion. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing, 467-1111.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
A lot of Husker Nation was shook last night finding out the news that was tweeted out by Jordan Larson, of course, former Nebraska volleyball great. She's headed to the 40 acres. She's going to join the Texas volleyball staff, and it's obviously, as an assistant coach, it's obviously very frustrating to see that as a Nebraska fan, especially, John Cook's been able to bring in a lot of his former players to kind of bring up on the Nebraska staff, but somehow Jordan Larson fell through the cracks. She's been incredible as an Olympian and just kind of serving as one of the best just examples for Nebraska in success coming out of Nebraska, especially for the magnificent volleyball program. And it's just kind of hard to see it. I guess it's one of those deals where where you kind of wait to immortalize somebody, right? We've been talking, it's kind of funny, for quite some time about maybe putting up a statue of Jordan Larson. Statue talk is always fun because you start to get into who deserves one and who doesn't. And certain schools like Oklahoma, you build one for anybody that wins a national championship as a head coach. And I kind of like that idea. Of course, Nebraska does have that in place, not necessarily because of that or lined up that way, but they do have a Devaney statue. They do have a Osborne statue. And of course, I think I mean, you kind of wait till he's done, but I think John Cook is going to have one on his way. The joke is always whoever wins the first basketball tournament game at Nebraska can get one in front of PBA. But when we're talking about kind of volleyball and who deserves that, of course, more than or maybe if it's somebody besides John Cook, who it'd be just kind of weird. And it is kind of weird when you build a statue of a guy that's currently there and coaching. Jordan Larson always came up, and that was kind of the idea. And maybe her moving on with her career, it's a blessing. I mean, it's a great job for her to get this job, but it's just a hard pill to swallow for Nebraska fans. But maybe especially within the last couple of weeks where you grabbed Casey Thompson out of the portal, a former Longhorn, son of a Sooner. Things are just weird. Things are very weird right now in Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, it's connections that you didn't expect coming from the Burnt Orange, but it's just kind of the new world of college athletics. I think the rivalries don't hold as much weight with the new generation, and especially now that the Big Ten, or now that the Huskers are in the Big Ten, and it's not a year in year out rivalry in football. I certainly think that's at play, but trust me, I still remember watching Mac Brown run out on the field with his finger in the air. So the hate for the Longhorns still burns very, very hotly inside of me. So
the red burns brightly, right? It burns brightly for Nebraska fans and their hate for Texas. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And Nebraska is not alone. I mean, Texas is kind of one of those national brands that if you ever run into them at any point in time in your history, you start to understand their cockiness and their arrogance, and then they usually do get the best of you. And that was part of the problem with Texas, is they pretty much got the best of Nebraska. But the long-term rivalry there is still in play for anybody that loved the Big 8 days. Texas has ruined the Big 8, and then it has now ruined the Big 12, as we know, as it heads off to the SEC. But of course, there were the days of arguing kind of the power struggle between Nebraska and the traditional Big 8, powers, and then Texas coming in from the Southwestern Conference. They moved the Big 12 championship game out of the Midwest more times than not. I mean, they had Rule 5 rules that they wanted to take away Nebraska's opportunity to get some of their players. So, I mean, it's been a long rivalry there for a reason. Texas has probably got the best of Nebraska on the field, but it's weird. And maybe as the generations pass down, that hatred will be a little bit less. I think that there will be. And it's just going to be so weird. I mean, all the talk around that Oklahoma game in Lincoln has got to be around Casey Thompson, because the story's just so darn intriguing of a former Sooner, son of a former Sooner, and then an ex-Longhorn now playing with Nebraska. Like you said, the split in conferences certainly make that difference. And Jordan Larson, it's a different deal entirely. It's a coaching opportunity for her. You're not going to turn that down. And then there's the other part of it, which I always say about whether it's Colorado or Texas. I mean, Colorado's a cool state. We can hate it all we want. Plenty of us vacation there all the time. Texas is kind of the same deal, where Austin is just one of the better cities in the country. It's a pretty cool city if you ever get the chance to go. But still, you could say you hate it. I even extend that to Iowa. I know everybody hates Iowa. I personally make the trek to Iowa to do a little bit of casino fun and maybe some, Joe's carding, stuff like that. So, and I was not all that bad either. But as far as destinations, places to be, but as far as the rivalries go, it just feels like there has to be some taken off the Texas-Nebraska rivalry. But I don't know. It's just kind of weird, because usually you would say, regardless of what Jordan Larson's doing, is I'll be cheering for her. I don't know if I would categorize as cheering as what I will be doing if I am watching the Longhorns volleyball team.
Supporting Jordan Larson in her endeavors, in her coaching endeavors, while not necessarily hoping for the success of the team she is coaching.
But that's not going to help her career trajectory, as if the team doesn't do well. Again, not have to worry too much about that. As Texas volleyball, they're pretty good there, but they're pretty set with or without Jordan Larson. But she'll definitely help. But I think we'll all just be cheering for a quick stay in Austin for Jordan Larson. Maybe just 1 or 2 years before she goes and takes another job. Maybe only taking a couple live concerts in the live music capital of the world there. Yeah, that's right. But I do think too, as the transfer portal, it's a bigger discussion than Jordan Larson, obviously. Like we said, her situation is that she's going to improve and kind of start up her career as a college coach. So that's kind of exciting. And maybe in jest we can have fun, downgrade her and throwing horns down and all that stuff, as far as the destination she chose. But it's a cool opportunity, and I will be cheering for her and hoping she has career success there. But as far as the transfer portal goes, part of it is like you said, that just kind of time between maybe playing Texas, and so the hatred might have worn off, and younger generations in the future won't quite understand that. But I think the transfer portal overall, as we see it now, has the chance to do somewhat what free agency did to pro sports. And it is power to the players, and it is more fun, and it can add storylines of guys crossing over to different rivalries. But that's kind of what left college football, college basketball. You still kind of felt that those guys were all in with the university, right? All in with the colors that they decided to wear. And in pro sports, free agency kind of hurt that. You talked to kind of older generations about, watching their favorite baseball team or basketball teams in the 70s or the 80s. And you could name, the whole starting lineup for the Kansas City Royals for a 5 or 6 year stretch. Maybe just make 2 changes here and there. You could do, the same type of thing for basketball and football. And then free agency opens up and everybody's moving everywhere. And there is no loyalty to the team that you cheer for. Now in college athletics, it's going to be somewhat the same thing where it's kind of frustrating. But Casey Thompson is a pretty good example of, he doesn't bleed Oklahoma Sooner red. He doesn't bleed Texas orange. He doesn't bleed Nebraska red. Even though he's here now, it kind of hurts it, and it definitely hurt me growing up as a fan as far as pro sports go. Watching the Johnny Damons and the Jacoby Ellsburys of the world on my Red Sox, Kevin Youkilis included, going over and joining the Yankees in pinstripes, and you just thought that's despicable. I'd never, if I was in their position, I would never go to the rival. And then, you just kind of realize everybody's kind of out for themselves, which they should be. I mean, it's more money in their pocket, and that's what the transfer portal is doing these days. But in my mind, it while adding storylines like it will be for the Nebraska-Oklahoma game this upcoming year, it also is eventually going to take away a little bit from that connection I think you felt as a fan to your college teams, thinking, those guys are loyal and bleed your team's colors.
I don't think that's necessarily the case, Bach. I don't think it's going to take away the enjoyment for myself cheering for Nebraska, because that's the school that I graduated from, and the school you graduated from as well. So I think we'll still have that connection, and we'll still have that passion for the Red N. And I don't think that the players, some of the players, not necessarily having that same fervor and that same passion for the Scarlet and Cream. I don't think that's going to. I don't think that's going to change the enjoyment for a lot of fans, because it's still heavily tied to where you are from, and it's still heavily tied to your identity as a person and the culture of your area. And so I still think that there'll be plenty of people taking way too much pride and getting a lot out of college football, more so than the NFL, because there are more programs, and you can usually find a team that is very close to you and kind of has the same cultural identity as the location that you're in. So I don't think it's going to change college football and the enjoyment for a lot of fans.
Well, I'm just saying, at like free agency, that was the one thing. I mean, you look back at a guy's career, and you'd have examples. Transferring's not new. You'd have guys that went to a couple different schools, and it's always a bit of just kind of playing in your own mind, right? I mean, we all kind of know. Most people, whether it's in their profession or school or whatever it is, if you have the opportunity to improve your life, go do it. I mean, don't let loyalty get in the way of you making decisions in self-interest. It's not selfish, it's self-interest. But there was always that idea, even with guys, moving on, you go through their careers, LeBron, has a 5 or 6 year run with whatever team he's on the latest, and it just kind of loses it a little bit more from a guy, like a Kobe or a Dirk or somebody that stayed there for 18 years. You just kind of feel more connected with that guy. And back in the day, that used to be the case for a lot of those players. You were 9 or 10 years on the same team, and in college sports, you kind of still had that, where a majority guys were going 4 or 5 years with the same team. And then so when they graduated and move on to the professional level, you could say, well, he's a Packer this year. He was a Giant last year. He'll be a Raider next year. But he's always been a Husker because he played 4 years for the Huskers.
Hey, the onus is now on the colleges. It's now on the professional teams to make it so that the grass is not greener on the other side. So you can still get people who are staying at a school for 3 to 4 years, spending their entire collegiate career at a school, as long as you make sure that is the best situation for them. I mean, you look at Alabama, and guys aren't transferring out of there in droves or their high level talent isn't transferring out of Alabama in droves because it's an advantageous situation for them. So it's taking the onus off of, or taking the complete responsibility off the player to make sure that you make the exact right decision out of high school. And it's making sure that these programs continue to recruit their own rosters and continue to offer the best of the best to people after they've signed their name on that dotted line. I don't think it's a apocalypse scenario that you're putting out here, that college football is fundamentally ruined. I think there will still be all of the same quirks and all the same lovable things that you've seen growing up, Bach. It's not a disaster scenario.
Oh, it is a disaster scenario. The regular season is going to mean less. There's less, people, sticking with the same team, all that stuff. It's not an apocalypse scenario. Like I said, I've adapted to the fact, and overall, you need to. Overall, I know some people hate change, and that's always kind of fun to make fun of, but change is constant. It's going to happen regardless in all areas of your life. So you have to adapt to it. You have to grow with it. But I will miss part of the past of college football and the loyalty that was there within the fan bases and with the teams. It is. I think that this is somewhat of a free agency type of. I mean, it is. It's a free agency type of deal now, where a lot of these guys are going to go to the highest bidder. And again, I'm not against that overall. I've always been a player empowerment type of guy. I like to see them, especially with all the money that's been made in college football, it go back to those guys and them have the opportunity to make it. It just takes a little bit away from what I grew up with and what I remember. But of course, that's different than what the previous generations grew up and what they remembered. I think overall, we are heading in the right direction. It'll be an adjustment that some people have to make. I did learn to hit the text line because I thought it was funny. Somebody said that Iowa is in no circumstance a vacation destination. Pete and Seward said, no, you're absolutely right. I wasn't saying it was a vacation destination. It's a flyover state just like Nebraska is my point. It's about the same. But as far as living in Lincoln, there's some opportunities to go to Council Bluffs and maybe do something that you can't do in Lincoln. I'm just talking about casinos, which pretty soon Nebraska will have it as well. So it won't be as big of a difference. I'm just saying I had this idea growing up because I always hated Iowa even before the Big Ten split, right? Is that, Iowa was just some terrible place to be. And after spending some time over in Iowa, it's just about the same as Nebraska.
Bach, how dare you? All right. There is inferior corn in Iowa.
Well, other than that, of course, the corn here is way better, as well as the beef. I mean, there's certain things that are certainly there, but I just thought that was kind of funny. We're going to take a quick break on the block here. We'll come back with our final segment before Eric Strickland joins us. Let's see, what should we talk about? I've had particularly fun following Will Compton's story the last couple of weeks. He's been cut and signed and cut. And signed and cut again now with the Raiders. He calls himself Playoff Willie. I don't think it's in the cards for him, but it's kind of just a cool story to see the modern day deal with COVID-19. And that's kind of how he's been getting his spot. And of course, he's a big podcaster and has a lot of fun with it. So we'll talk about some of what we've been going with and a little bit of Will Compton's journey coming up next year on The Block on 93.7 The Ticket.
What does better service mean? At Allo, it means that you get the best fiber internet available at prices that work for you. Better service means installers who show up on time. Better service means no billing shenanigans. Better service means a real person answers the phone. If you're not paying for better service, what are you paying for? Get Allo. Get better service. Switch today at allofiber.com/better service.
Lee's Restaurant in Lincoln takes its time out to honor, recognize, and salute all the brave men and women around the world standing tall for all of our American freedoms. Let's remember them this season in our thoughts, prayers, and most importantly, our support from home. This message from Lee's Restaurant in Lincoln, famous for Southern fried chicken, serving the area with integrity and pride since 1945. Visit them online at leeschickenlincoln.com or call 402-477-4339.
Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers is all about the good and creating more of it. More drive-through celebrations, more weekend traditions, more family dinners and lunches, more car picnics and road trips, more desserts, maybe more second desserts, more celebrating being together as much as we can. There's always room for more good and more Freddy's. Keep the good going with a taste that brings you back.
Parents, if you've been waiting for FDA approval to get your teen vaccinated, the time is now. The FDA has approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for use in preventing COVID-19. While this is the first vaccine to gain FDA approval, all COVID-19 vaccines have been proven to be effective against the coronavirus. Want to reduce your teen's risk of hospitalization while protecting yourself and your community? Get your teen vaccinated today. Visit vaccinate.ne.gov to get started.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too, and that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. But our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more. When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it. We get to serve in our own region and help the people we call neighbors. Whether they are in the mountains of New Mexico, the plains of Nebraska and Kansas, the ranches of Oklahoma and Texas, the farmlands of Missouri and Arkansas, or the bayous of Louisiana, we are here for our hometowns. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Have you been told your furnace has a cracked heat exchanger? Before you spend money needlessly, call Bryant for a free second opinion. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing, 467-1111.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they're hiring for production operators at $21.72 an hour and other select jobs starting at $23.42 an hour, with wages growing up to $27.55 an hour. Continental also has salary jobs available with great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljob.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
They say one great thing leads to another, and that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a Ready Next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's going to be great.
You hear that? That's the sound of extremely tender and delicious beef from Certified Piedmontese. Prime grade tenderness with a fraction of the fat and calories of normal beef. It's Nebraska-raised product and the official beef of Nebraska Athletics. Change the way you buy beef today at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese, just north of 84th and Havelock, or at cpmercado.com. Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is On the Block with Strick and Bach here on 93.7 The Ticket. Wrapping up the Ticket water cooler portion of the show. Eric Strickland set to join us in about 10 minutes from now. We've got a loaded show for you once we begin that. Mitch Sherman of The Athletic joining us at 4:25. Andy Markowski, former Husker and father of current women's basketball player right now, will join us at 5:25. So that will be exciting. A few news and notes to hit on around the Big Ten. Of course, today was the schedule release, so just a few changes for Nebraska as far as their bye weeks and kind of switching some things there with getting the Wisconsin and Purdue games back on the right track. But some things happening as of late with some guys that you may know or remember. Penn State running back Noah Cain, who led the team in rushing touchdowns in 2021, has entered the transfer portal. So kind of interesting to follow along if Nebraska, we kind of always have been asking. They added a running back from Texas A&M the other day, somewhat unproven, I suppose, that doesn't have a whole lot of experience at this level. There's a few running backs out there now with Big Ten experience in the portal. Will they make contact with those guys? We'll have to see. Also, big news is coming out of Iowa City, where Jack Campbell, one of the best linebackers in the nation, led the Big Ten in tackles this year, deciding to return to Iowa City and play for Iowa. So that's a big get for Phil Parker and that Hawkeye defense. Some other things that I saw today as well. Hunter Johnson of Northwestern, who was one of many starters at Northwestern, former 5-star transfer from Clemson. Throw the 5-star thing out. The guy can't play all that well, but he has entered the transfer portal as well. And then following along with Jack Plummer, who was the former Purdue quarterback before Aiden O'Connell took over. He's finally found a destination for himself. He's going to end up at Cal out there in the Pac-12. Of those moves, Big Sky, which one catches your eye the most?
I think the transfer news that I caught today that was the most surprising was former Nebraska safety Cameron Jones transferring from Southern Methodist to Grambling State.
Grambling State's starting to add some Huskers there. They got Maurice Washington the other day as well.
Absolutely. So that certainly a intriguing FCS team for Husker fans to keep an eye on a couple of former 4-stars that didn't end up panning out for the program.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. And as we always say, the transfer portal giveth, the transfer portal taketh away. And so it's kind of fun to follow those guys. And we were kind of talking in the last segment about how it's going to, in my mind, at least wash down kind of that loyalty aspect that you've had in college football, somewhat similar to the free agency and the professional ranks. It does also add things like add the intrigue of, Shaq and Kobe finally playing each other in different uniforms and those type of games that you can kind of just circle on the calendar and say, man, I can't wait to see this guy against his former team or, and in this certain circumstance, like Adrian Martinez playing Texas is going to be quite interesting, or just kind of running through the Big 12 altogether is going to be interesting for Nebraska fans. We had a taste of that with Wan'Dale Robinson anytime he and his Kentucky team were on TV this last year. I made sure to tune in and kind of check out what they were doing. So, like I said, there's good and bad about it, but I think that there's also mostly in life, focus on the good so that you can kind of feel better about yourself and the way that things are going. And I think it'll be fun to follow along. That Jack Campbell one is pretty big for the Hawkeyes. Has anything changed about your view of Iowa until they get a different quarterback, or do you think that with their more difficult schedule coming up? I know you love to protect the Big Ten and the Big Ten West and all the depth in there. Do you think Iowa, with a difficult schedule finally, and those two quarterbacks they're running out there, minus Tyler Goodson, will be an improved unit going into next year?
I don't know where that slight jab is coming from, considering you were Mr. Hawkeye throughout the first 8 weeks of the season.
They'll still get interceptions, don't worry.
I certainly think Iowa is going to be a threat in the Big Ten. And obviously, as we've seen from numerous examples coming from Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, you don't really need a quarterback. You don't need a Bryce Young or a Kenny Pickett at quarterback to win in the Big Ten. And so I struggle to ding Iowa too hard when evaluating them just off the simple fact that Petrus isn't exactly the most amazing quarterback in the Big Ten. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not going to look down upon Iowa, and I think they'll continue to be a threat in the Big Ten West. Certainly one of those top two teams going into next season with Wisconsin, and has a good chance of being the representative in Lucas Oil Stadium within the year for the Big Ten West.
Well, it's fascinating because those teams are always on top of the Big Ten West, and obviously Nebraska was built to be in there as well. But next year, I mean, they're going to have some competition. Purdue certainly showed out this year, won 9 games, brings back Aiden O'Connell. Minnesota bringing back a lot of their key pieces, minus their entire gigantic offensive line. So they will have to adjust a little bit there. But the Big Ten West is going to be a fun race next year. And as we broke down earlier, the schedule, it's difficult for a lot of these teams. I think Nebraska and Purdue probably get the best draw out of the bunch as far as the contenders go. I didn't necessarily break down Illinois' schedule. I'm not ready to include Illinois in my group of contenders, and Northwestern, absolutely not. So I didn't really look at them either. But you never know. Northwestern can come out of nowhere and win that division as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, your doubt is all Northwestern needs to fuel them to a Big Ten title next year.
That's absolutely true. Well, it'll be fun. We'll see how it plays out. A lot of things kind of falling into place today with that schedule. And then, as we mentioned, one of the best linebackers in the nation going back to Iowa. Very interesting. Speaking of linebackers, I did want to ask you and see if you were following the Will Compton story over the last couple of years, or last couple of weeks, I should say. His career is winding down, but he still does kind of get in for some special teams work with the Raiders if they're down a body or two. So he just has kind of had the winding road of a guy or two having COVID with the Raiders. He's the guy they call up to come play special teams if they need a spot there, basically. He's been calling himself Playoff Willie. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think he's gonna make the playoff run with the Raiders, but it's kind of cool to see a veteran like that who's obviously had a solid career, wasn't expected to necessarily even make a roster. I mean, he was undrafted coming into the pros, had some good years there in Washington, and just some good years overall in the league. And obviously he's been able to propel that to a very popular podcast that he's been doing and kind of gets a following there. But I was sad to see him not be able to make the playoff run. Not unexpected, but cut twice in 2 weeks. That's kind of rough.
I mean, I'm not overly surprised because when I had saw the news that he was getting an opportunity with the Raiders again, I thought that it was a little bit odd because, again, he had a decently long career, but he was never that lockdown linebacker like a Levante David was. No. So you didn't think that they were bringing him in for more than depth. But I've certainly loved to see him grow the awareness around Nebraska through his podcast, because certainly having a big name in the media is going to help Nebraska in the long run, because it'll just get, again, the Big Red in front of more recruiting eyes. And that's all you can really ask for. And he does defend the Big Red. He had Darius Rucker on his podcast, and Rucker said that Vanderbilt would beat anyone in the Big Ten. And they had a pretty fun back and forth on that topic. So I thought that was good, just to get that kind of discussion out in front of the young people that listen to Barstool.
Yeah, and of course he's also had Bo Pelini on there. That was a great episode. So all the best wishes for him in his NFL career moving forward. But he's at the very end of it, so hopefully he gets another shot maybe next year. And like we said, he's just kind of down to a special teams player at this point in his career, but does get eyes on the Big Red with his podcast. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will we'll start up hour number 2 of On the Block, and as usual, that means Husker Hall of Famer and longtime NBA vet Eric Strickland will join our show. That's coming up next on The Block.
This is Dan Friedman. In recent years, over 1/3 of all Nebraska traffic crashes have been caused by drivers aged 15 to 19. If you're a teen driver, don't become another statistic. Keep your eyes on the road. And if you're a parent, please remember that safe driving habits start with you. This message is brought to you by Friedman Law Offices. For almost 60 years, helping injured people. It's what we do. It's all we do. Find us at friedmanlaw.com today.
What does better service mean? At Allo, it means that you get the best fiber internet available at prices that work for you. Better service means installers who show up on time. Better service means no billing shenanigans. Better service means a real person answers the phone. If you're not paying for better service, what are you paying for? Get Allo. Get better service. Switch today at allofiber.com/better service.
Working at Continental of Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they're hiring for production operators at $21.72 an hour and other select jobs starting at $23.42 an hour, with wages growing up to $27.55 an hour. Continental also has salary jobs available with great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljob.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
They say one great thing leads to another, and that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a Ready Next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's gonna be great.
Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers is all about the good and creating more of it. More drive-through celebrations, more weekend traditions, more family dinners and lunches, more car picnics and road trips, more desserts, maybe more second desserts, more celebrating being together as much as we can. There's always room for more good and more Freddy's. Keep the good going with a taste that brings you back.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill has been your go-to in South Lincoln for years, and their second location in downtown Lincoln is now open. Rosie's downtown spot is Lincoln's premier Nebraska party bar with the Sidetrack Band every Friday night of home games and all day for Nebraska home football games. With 34 TVs that are 65 inches or bigger, you'll always have a great view for all the games. Make sure to check out the new Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill, now open in downtown Lincoln at 10th and P.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels and Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels and Joe. 93.7 The Ticket. Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by Security First Bank. A relationship you can count on.
Partly to mostly sunny skies and mild conditions expected once again. We'll top out near 55. Winds out of the northwest at around 10 to 20. Heading into tonight, mainly clear. A low dropping down to around 31. One more beautiful day tomorrow with a high of 55, but we're watching a system for Friday that could bring snow to the region. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Lee's Restaurant in Lincoln takes this time out to honor, recognize, and salute all the brave men and women around the world standing tall for all of our American freedoms. Let's remember them this season in our thoughts, prayers, and most importantly, our support from home. This message from Lee's Restaurant in Lincoln, famous for Southern fried chicken, and serving the area with integrity and pride since 1945. Visit them online at leeschickenlincoln.com or call 402-477-4339.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for 3! And you're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
93.7 The Ticket veteran and lover.
I can't hear.
Bakoven.
What?
If y'all can hear me, I can't hear
Coming at
anything
you
going on in
live
the
from the
station.
Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Hold up.
This is On the Block with Strick and Buck. I'm Jake Buckoven, and coming in as we're having a little bit of trouble, technical issues again, but as we usually do, trying to get this thing started. Eric Strickland, former Husker, of course, a longtime NBA vet, Husker Hall of Famer Eric Strickland, joining the show now. Strick, can you hear us? I still don't think Strick can hear us, but we'll work on that, and we'll bring him in here in a second. I wanted to get to some of the topics today, of course, revolving Nebraska football. Of course, we'll have plenty of time to talk about Nebraska's 81-71 loss on the hardwood last night to Illinois. It was an entertaining game. I know Strick did the post-game show about it, so I listened to a little bit of that. So I wanted to catch up with some of his thoughts going on there. But I did want to start with football. Of course, the schedule change kind of opens up ways to kind of look through the schedule, start predicting it. And then the article that was written today by Steve Sipple, of course, of Early Break in the Lincoln Journal-Star, where he kind of got a chance to talk to Trev Alberts. And the biggest thing that kind of jumped out to me there was that Trev Alberts, you always kind of talk about an athletic director that you want to understand the game and kind of what's going on out there. And I think some of these comments that he said would lead you to believe that. Of course, he an article yesterday, I believe, Simple kind of pointed out that Alberts was excited for the running back hire. But the article today was, I thought the quotes that jumped out to me for Trev Alberts was that he's basically watched the the national championship game between Georgia and Alabama and said they kind of have to take baby steps to get back to that level because they're nowhere close. And he said, kind of I'm paraphrasing here, but the key to kind of getting that is looking to get back to the basics, become the most physical football team in the Midwest, and focus on fundamentals. Of course, that's been a big complaint for Husker Nation as they've watched this Scott Frost era. And so it kind of leads you to believe that at least the focus will be on there this offseason. In the past offseason, they kind of talk about focus being on special teams, and it was more disastrous than ever. So it does not necessarily equal results. But it is at least good to know that within those offices, that's the goal. And when you talk about taking baby steps and looking nothing like the Georgia-Alabama project that we saw in the field, it's kind of the same discussion when you talk about being one of the most physical teams in the Midwest. is that, in the Big Ten West, the most physical division in college football, likely is Nebraska is very far away from those Minnesotas, those Wisconsins, and the Iowas, seemingly in physicality. Would you agree, Strick?
Yeah, I would think so. I think that's definitely something, to look at. And so I look forward to having the conversation with Mitch Sherman a little bit at around the 4:25 hour, because I do have some questions. I really want to understand how we advance, how we get better, how we progress, what things we have in our in the football squad that are strengths and maybe some of the weaknesses that can be identified. So I definitely think that we have to be more physical, definitely up front, in both lines, in the defensive front line and also in the offensive line as well. I think those are things that we have to try to figure out. We have to really establish a running game. And there were times when we did well, and when we did well, the team looked good. And when they did well, it made them very difficult to understand when they had to sit back and we had to rely on Adrian to just consistently throw the ball, which he's not bad at. We didn't fare as well as when we had that good balance. And I think we have to get back to, I'm not saying we have to go back to an option football style, but we definitely need to get back to that physical presence that we used to have in its past, in the history of Nebraska football.
And of course, looking back over kind of this whole Frost era, that was the expectation was to come in, run Frost's offense and make the Big Ten adjust. He said as much in his opening press conference. That has not happened. So it's kind of interesting now as they are trying to move closer toward kind of that physicality department. I think that's the way to win in the Big Ten West. I think that's a good way to go about it. However, you're kind of, if as you're making that switch, you're kind of starting behind the rest of the teams, right? I mean, because they've already kind of had that in their culture. They've recruited to it. They've been doing it for years, in Iowa City and Madison. And then, of course, in Minnesota, it's kind of becoming the same thing there. So it's maybe the Nebraska, you never would have thought this, back in the 90s, but is kind of starting from behind in the physicality aspect in the Big Ten West. However, they are making those moves. One of the key reasons probably to bring in Donovan Raiola was the belief that he could get those offensive linemen to that level. And hopefully they figured he could do that in a rather quick fashion, because they went out and they had some interviews. They went, they talked to some veteran offensive line guys to see if that would be the way that they thought they could go, or would be the best way to build this offensive line. And ultimately, whatever Donovan Raiola sold them, it worked, and he got the job. And I would think that a big part of that was the physicality that they want to bring. And sometimes I think we kind of get lost in how far away Nebraska is. After all, again, they were very close to every one of those teams that we mentioned in the Big Ten West when they played them on the field. But it was somewhat seemingly kind of smoke and mirrors type of deal where Nebraska had the playmakers, some of the best athletes on the field at times, but it just wasn't in the bulk up front, and in particularly the offensive line. The defensive line did a much better job this past year. They're going to have to kind of reset that, minus Damian Daniels and DeAndre Thomas and Ben Stilley and some of those guys. But I think the belief in the defensive staff is there that they can do that, and they did a pretty good job against a lot of the nation's elite running backs. So at this point, I think you're talking about the offensive line, which was the furthest thing away from overwhelming or incredibly physical, and not just in the run game, as you mentioned, the passing game or the quarterback running game, which kind of happened through the passing game a lot of the time, was just they just weren't quick enough at the tackle position that speed rushers were able to get around them, or it was always something wrong with one of the guys. Like every play, somebody on the offensive line. And now, of course, you lose your best offensive lineman in Cameron Jurgens, but new coach and a few guys that have had some experience, new guys, of course, from the transfer portal as well. It's something we talk about all off season. I like the text line usually gets to it. Somebody in the text line, we can't try to break down the running backs or the wide receivers in the quarterback and what they will bring. But to me, it always kind of goes back to that offensive line. It's got to kind of get that mentality in place where this is our day. It's Saturday, especially when you come into Memorial Stadium. This is our house. You're going to leave with bumps and bruises, and we're going to run right over you. And, that's been much quoted this week is to kind of talking about the greats and how they would point out, to opposing teams, we're going to run the dive right at you, right through this gap. And they tell opposing defensive linemen that, and then they'd get 10 yards on it. It didn't matter if the opposing team knew because of the physicality of the pipeline back in the day.
That's exactly right. And I think it's an important part of the success of most teams that really want to not make yourself one-dimensional, right? You become very one-dimensional. They can pretty much rear their ears back at the end positions or at all of those positions. The blitzes can get there so much more faster. And then if you don't have guys with great release capabilities at the wide receiver positions, I mean, that's why they relied so heavily on Allen, because Allen was just able with his size to create space and you could toss it up to him and he would find areas in the zone as well as in the matchups that would allow them to be able to have some success and open it up a little bit more, because then you'd have to rely on that and it would open up some other things on the outside. But when they were able to have play actions and go deep and do some patterns, some routes, some routes and patterns that were difficult for the safeties and the DBs to be able to handle, they had good success. And I think the running game will even make that more. It'll open up the field so much more. It won't allow those backers to get back into those zones and those drops that causes trouble for them. It'll open it up. When you got to bring an extra guy into that box, it definitely opens it up. And I think the receiving core, even though unproven, I think if they can have some space to move. I mean, I think they've got good speed on the outside. There's some solid size and hopefully their strength will be there to be able to create separation. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how the spring game goes and to see who's going to emerge and who's going to come forward and make a name and take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. I mean, the opportunities probably across the board are wide open right now.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, too, just hearing from the athletic director saying that sort of thing where he wants the most physical team in the Midwest, because we're all trying to get this idea of what's it going to take to bring Scott Frost back? Is it 6 wins? Is it getting to a bowl? Is it 7 wins? I mean, is it moving up? But if you pay attention to what's said when he says he wants the most physical team in the Midwest, I don't think that Scott Frost is getting fired if he doesn't grade him Nebraska in 1 year, kind of turning the corner and being the most physical team in the Midwest. But it better be pointing that way, and they better have made some big strides, especially with the offseason moves that they've made toward that goal. And so it's kind of fun because that there's a lot of meetings going on between Alberts and Frost. They've said as much. They meet quite often, and you kind of wonder what's said there. And then when you hear Alberts say things like that, it's okay. That's the goal. That's what they're moving toward. And that's where hopefully we can expect Nebraska to be next season. It's kind of odd though, with that goal in mind, they still don't have a running backs coach in the fold. The rest of the staff has been filled out. And it just seems like they're still kind of waiting for maybe some potential interviews to be done. Trev did mention in the article with SIP the other day that it's kind of a weird time where NFL guys, we just saw on Black Monday, a lot of different guys, including offensive line coaches, are being let go from NFL teams because their head coach is being let go. So it's kind of interesting, and maybe a new opportunity pops up every day. So I don't know. It kind of just feels like they've liked the staff that they've put together, but they're not necessarily in a rush to get the running back coach in, more so than getting the right guy instead of getting it done quicker. Maybe just because that's an ancillary piece as far as the offseason rebuild.
Yeah, no question. And you're right. I think to be able to land somebody coming out of a organization in the pros could be a good find, to be a good get. to make some new additions to the organization, to the university. I defer to the approach of taking time, as you said. I mean, you know what you have in your running back core. You have those in that running back room. They're there. They're not going anywhere. So the thing about it is to make sure you get the right guy that's going to coach them up, get them ready and prepared for the new wave of being able to get them touches and to be able to do something with them. I think that having a good balance of downhill running, hitting the holes and providing some physicality there with Yant and the likes of them are there. And I think having a good mix of that speed and power combination, depending on what formations you're going to line up in and what you're trying to accomplish. I think in the past they've had a sense of being behind the chains a little bit, in that not getting much out of their first downs. So then they find themselves in situations where they have to, with a bad, the line not being there and suited to be able to handle the rushing of the opposing teams. That then, puts a lot of pressure on all components, to include the quarterback position as well as the wide receiver position to get open quicker. And I didn't know if we had a lot of that in a lot of instances, but I think with a little bit more time, those guys will be able to get some space and make something happen. So yeah, I agree that taking the time to get the right guys that's going to coach them up and prepare them. I think they did a very good job at misdirection type of stuff and screens and stuff like that alleviated some of that rush pressure. But I think they can do more if they can get into 4 and 5 yards a carry, definitely at a minimum. Then if they get into that 6 and 7 yard, they're going to be dangerous. If they get into their run game, can get into that 6 and 7 yard range, where you don't have to be trying to complete 8, 9, 10 yard completions, not unless you've got the line short up, is going to be a lot better for them, no doubt.
And of course, we all want to be optimistic about how it's going to turn out, and with new, kind of change comes hope there. But it is going to need to be done at a higher level with the traditional running game. Casey Thompson can add a little bit with his feet, but he's not the threat.
He's not Adrian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you kind of look at a thing, something that the defense has to prepare for, kind of being taken away a little bit there from that offense. And I've said it all along, that offense, to be able to put up the numbers that they did with the offensive line, like I said, whether it was smoke and mirrors or whatever it was, Adrian bailing them out, to be able to have a top 25, 35 type of offense with potentially one of the worst offensive lines in the Power 5, that spoke a lot of volumes to me and led me to believe that they shouldn't probably throw out every one of their ideas from that Scott Frost offense. And I think they're going to, merge that with what Mark Whipple brings to the table. Strick, I did want to ask you this. Did you get a chance to look at Nebraska's football schedule? Of course, not a complete overhaul as far as the schedule goes, but a couple changes. Changes in the bye weeks, and Scott Frost has struggled in and out of bye weeks, so there's not necessarily anything to break down as far as how much easier is it going to get. But now you look at the bye week coming after the September 17th game against Oklahoma, leading you into an home game against Indiana. It's kind of funny because usually you're looking at the big games. Maybe get a bye week before the Oklahoma game would be spectacular. Now, because, a lot of these games that we would normally look at the schedule and try to count away, okay, here's 6 wins there. There's the 7th win there. There's the 8th win. It's tough to do that coming off a 3-9 season. So I guess the way that I was just looking at it is the bye weeks, even though Scott Frost has struggled with them, they will be a good break for them to get ready for, in this case, now, being ahead of the Indiana game and now ahead of the Illinois game as well. Those are games that you would think, if traditionally you'd go down as a Nebraska fan and say, well, there's a win and there's a win. But now that can't be counted on, I think it almost is better or more relieving to me as a Nebraska fan that the games that are close to gimmies are the ones that you would say Nebraska's got a pretty good shot at. that they'll have a little bit of a break and a chance to reflect in 2 weeks to get ready for those teams.
Yeah, if you have an expectation coming into a big game, right? Sometimes you can have such high adrenaline and such high intensity that if you pull those games out and you win those games, right? Sometimes you can go, if you go into the next week, you can have a lull, especially if it's like an Indiana or if it's like an Illinois or something of that sort. And so you that gives you a little extra week to prepare. So you get a chance to monitor, I think. So I speak, the same way that you're speaking, with the possibility of it being a good thing, because at the end of the day, if you come off of a high of a big win, you can monitor that first week and see, well, what type of intensity are the guys giving? Are they kind of lackluster? And then you can reassert that to help them to understand what it's going to take to stay on top, right? You can't have lulls. And so if they're practicing just kind of mediocre or just going through the motions, you can turn that around with a 2-week break. So I think that can be a positive.
And of course, as we do look at the schedule, I think the hope for Nebraska fans is to start off hot. Like I said, it's dangerous to start counting wins now from a 3-9 perspective with all the changes that have kind of happened. But you look at the openings, you got to win that one against Northwestern and Ireland. You have to. You dropped the opener last year against Illinois. We saw kind of took all the wind out of the sails for Nebraska and maybe their run in the Big Ten West, at least last year. You can't have that happen again. And Northwestern's a team that they dominated this past year. So you got to get that win. Then you have some warm-up games for Oklahoma with North Dakota and Georgia Southern. And then the Oklahoma game, I think people would say, okay, that's one that they can lose. But, given the way they played Oklahoma, all the changes going on in the Sooner program, that's not necessarily a loss. You just probably would count that among them in as far as the non-con goes. But then your Big Ten schedule isn't the roughest, right? Indiana struggled in the Big Ten, and you start off with them at home. Then you have at Rutgers, another team that wasn't too good in the Big Ten. And it's not going to be easy for the longest time. You do have to play Purdue and West Lafayette following Rutgers. That's kind of when the stretch really gets kind of difficult. After that bye week against Purdue, is really the stretch that's going to be tough. Against Illinois, we know Brett Bielema is going to have that team ready to kind of grind you out. Then you play Minnesota, another team that's going to grind you out. Then you go to Michigan, to Ann Arbor to play, of course, the playoff team, the former Big Ten champs, or defending Big Ten champs, I should say, before closing out at home against Wisconsin, then at Iowa. That is a grind. So I think it's going to be imperative to not follow along kind of the path of we got to get to a bowl game. And so if we just stick around 500 all season long, that last stretch is going to be difficult. So, just try to add as many wins as you can at the front of that thing, as the goal has to be, and not just the goal, the livelihood of this program as far as the coach in place. You got to get to 6 wins. We don't know what that standard set is from Trev Alberts. They know within office, but it has to be a bowl game at least for this team this upcoming year.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it, right, is sometimes like a couple years ago, Indiana made a run. I mean, they were beating some people. So you just don't know what's going to happen with the program, right? They can come out and put up 8 wins. That's kind of what they've done in different times. In a few years of season. So you just don't know how that's going to fare out. So you can't look at it just because they had a bad season that that's going to be the same outcome. And and Illinois is the same. I mean, they're going to play hard every week, and they're going to give you a fight. And if you let them get a smell, they might pull one out on you. So just like they did this year. So you've got to take advantage of this first half of the schedule. Get some confidence. Get feeling really good. Get some consistency, understanding who's going to show up for you every weekend, who's going to emerge and show themselves to be proven a little bit more, who you can count on, who Casey, whoever the quarterback may be, Smothers or Casey Thompson or whatever, at this point, we're going to say Casey Thompson, who he's going to be able to count on, especially losing Allen. We knew that Adrian Martinez and Allen had a great connection. Who's going to be that guy he can connect with? That's going to be there for him in a third down situation, in an important drive situation. Those type of guys, you'll get a chance to see that early on, and that's why it's important to get a good smell early in those games to identify those types of things. And Then when you go into the gauntlet part of the Big Ten, then you kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And like you said, you never can predict these things. Sometimes the starting quarterback's out or whatever may be happening game week. We spend all off season trying to break them down, and then they're completely different by the time we get to those games. But it's still going to be a lot of fun. We'll break more of this down. Lots of the Husker football news coming up with Mitch Sherman of The Athletic. He's coming up around the corner on the block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill has been your go-to in South Lincoln for years, and their second location in downtown Lincoln is now open. Rosie's downtown spot is Lincoln's premier Nebraska party bar with the Sidetrack Band every Friday night of home games and all day for Nebraska home football games. With 34 TVs that are 65 inches or bigger, you'll always have a great view for all the games. Make sure to check out the new Rosie Sports Bar and Grill, now open in downtown Lincoln at 10th and P.
You can search online for hours to find the best electricians in Lincoln and the surrounding area, but I'll save you time. High Electric has been serving their customers for 30 years for both residential and commercial properties. They're experts in everything electrical, from remodeling to new additions, hot tub installations, electric vehicle chargers or EV chargers, lighting, ceiling fans, and more. High Electric takes jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at highelectric.com.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
Ed Orgeron joins us. You have told me before you have a genuine fondness for the state of Nebraska. Why is that?
I always liked Nebraska. Growing up, watching Nebraska, Monty Kiffin, Tom Osborne, the great teams there. I just always liked Nebraska. I just think it's a great school, great state, great football, tough, hard-nosed football player.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
Hi, welcome to Big Chain Bar and Grill. Can I get you a drink? Which game were you hoping to see? Doesn't matter. I don't know what channel the game's on anyway. Are you ready to order? Okay, here's your check. Come back and see us again, okay?
What?
Hey, welcome back into Upside.
Slow down and enjoy the game at the Upside Bar and Lounge. Comfortable seating, plenty of screens, a great food and drink menu, and no one trying to shove you out the door. Come in, hang out, and take it all in at the Upside Bar and Lounge, open daily just east of 27th and Pine Lake.
The place you call home should always be a place of comfort. Warm and cozy in winter, cool and relaxing in summer. If your home isn't delivering the comfort you expect, call Bryant. It's more than just hot and cold to them. It's about providing the best comfort solutions. And Bryant gives you a full 24-month test drive on your home comfort system. Get full details at BryantLincoln.com or call 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
Our public school teachers want every child to learn, grow, and succeed. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the NSEA. School's in session, and it's key to build a partnership with your child's teacher. Visit with them and ask for an overview of your child's strengths and areas for growth. Ask for recommendations for activities and opportunities so you can work with your child to harness their strengths and address their challenges.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association on this station.
Hi, this is Kurt, your shop manager at A1 Automotive here in downtown Lincoln. My promise to you is this: you won't find another automotive repair facility that genuinely cares about you and your vehicle. Our service is outstanding and our customer service is better. Please give me a call for all your automotive repair questions and needs. Call me at 402-477-4660. We were built on small town values, and that shows in how we treat others. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday. You lost Wednesday. You're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. Old School with DP and J.
They didn't get hired to come here and change. They came here, I'm assuming, to add to it. It wasn't just Coach Whipple coaching Pickett. It wasn't just Coach Joseph coaching all those receivers. It's more to it. Coaching was a big part of it, obviously, but what you bring into the table? I can guarantee you, if I'm a defensive player and I was kind of slacking or whatever, you think Coach Joseph ain't going to be like, dog, You know who I saw playing on defense? Jamal Adams and all these other guys. What do you think he's doing?
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers is all about the good and creating more of it. More drive-through celebrations, more weekend traditions, more family dinners and lunches, more car picnics and road trips, more desserts, maybe more second desserts. More celebrating being together as much as we can. There's always room for more good and more Freddy's. Keep the good going with a taste that brings you back.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back on the block with Strick and Bach. I'm Jake Bachman. He is Eric Strickland, and Mitch Sherman of the Athletics set to join us here in just a minute. I did want to announce this too. I just saw this. Sam Laporta, the really good Iowa tight end, announcing he's coming back to Iowa as well. As well as Jack Campbell, the leading tackler in the nation last year in the Big Ten, also announced that he's returning. So a big day in Iowa City there. And we'll bring in Mitch Sherman just on that. I know he covers the Big Ten, or covers Nebraska football closely, but has extensively covered the Big Ten as well. Mitch, what do those returnees, I guess, for Iowa mean as far as their standing in the Big Ten West moving forward?
I think it solidifies Iowa as a contender in the Big Ten West. Clearly, the Hawkeyes have got some quarterback questions after the back and forth this season that continued into the postseason. We'll see where that goes with Spencer Petras. But, yeah, I mean, you're talking about two pretty big-time players in Laporta and Campbell. Campbell was one of the best linebackers in the country. So, you know, he's the kind of guy that Iowa builds around traditionally on the defensive side. And, you know, we know their history with tight ends. So Laporta is, you know, he's in line to be the next guy who takes that time in Iowa City right into the NFL. He probably could have done it this year in the 2022 draft, but, you know, he clearly believes he can come back and improve his stock and be a higher pick a year from now. And the way that Iowa uses tight ends in that offense, if they can figure out what's going on at quarterback, then I think he's probably right.
And, of course, today also the news of the Big Ten was kind of releasing the schedule. Pretty much affected everybody to a very small scale. But for Nebraska, it just kind of changed the bye weeks and a few things as far as home and aways with Purdue and Wisconsin. Did anything really jump out to you as far as is maybe the schedule improving or getting better for Nebraska today, or was it mostly not much of a change?
Well, I think there was some significant change. You know, I think we knew the locations of the Wisconsin and the Purdue games were going to be flipped because of where they've been played the past 2 years. And this gets the Big Ten back on track of being home and away in odd and even numbered years. But the movement of the Michigan game to the end of the calendar, that was a game in October and is now going to be played on November 12th in Ann Arbor, right there boxed between Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. You know, that means a really difficult stretch run for the Huskers in 22. So it just magnifies the importance of getting off to a good start. And then on the other side of that, on the other side of the schedule, you see Nebraska with 4 home games in a row after that opener in Ireland. So that lets them get their feet back under them, so to speak. You know, you go across the Atlantic, and it's a different than normal trip. So it may take a little bit longer to recover from that. Nebraska gets to come home and play 4 home games before that, and they've got the bye now before the Indiana game. So that'll be the 5th game of the year on October 1st, which is an important game, an important date, an important game and an important date for Nebraska in the overall context of 2022. In fact, if you were to say one date that right now matters as much as any among all the dates in 2022, October 1st is a huge one just because of what it means with the restructured terms of Scott Frost's contract, and that's the day that the lowered buyout goes into effect. That's the day that the seat potentially gets really hot at Nebraska if things are not going well. And now Nebraska doesn't have to go on the road before October 1st, other than that overseas game at a neutral site, and has a bye week going into that Indiana game to potentially heal up and fix some things before that all important game. Not that everything's decided on October 1st, but it's definitely a marker there on the Husker schedule to be able to gauge progress.
Hey, Mitch, Eric Strickland here. Hope all is well. Wanted to just ask this question. So where do we go from here? There's so many unknowns, right? We have a new staff, a lot of additions in the transfer portal, a team that has talent, so to speak, but is unproven talent. So what would you assess would be the strengths of this unit and the weaknesses of this 2022 team?
Yeah, good to talk to you, Strick. I would say right now that the wide receivers on the offensive side look really strong with the addition of Trey Palmer through the portal, one of two coming in from Division I schools. You also had the late addition in recruiting of DeColdis Crawford, who's a mid-year enrollee and is actually, I don't think he is. He's not a mid-year enrollee, but I'm getting some tweets confused. I've seen tweets of various future Huskers who are on their way to Lincoln or just landed in Omaha, and there's some guys who are here. Crawford, I think, is a summer arrival, but clearly Trey Palmer is a guy who can be on campus this week and can start conditioning with Nebraska, and then can start classes next Tuesday when the spring semester begins. They're strong at wide receiver, and I'd extend that really to all of the pass catching positions, just because of what Nebraska has back at tight end with Thomas Fidone coming off a knee surgery, should be healthy this year. He's a dynamic tight end and would have been somebody that Nebraska could have counted on to catch passes in 2021, even with a healthy Austin Allen, if Fidone had progressed as expected through the calendar. Of course, he got hurt late in the spring, and that derailed that. So on the offensive side, you have that for sure as a strength. Defensively, I look at the inside linebackers. I think the secondary is always going to be a solid position group with Travis Fisher in charge. He's such a great coach when it comes to development, when it comes to cross-training his players between the safety and corner spots, and even getting guys ready to play that nickel position that we saw JoJo Domann thrive at in 21. Clearly he's right there at the top of the list when you start to rank the Nebraska assistant coaches. But as far as experience and talent, and having proved things against the Big Ten schedule, it's hard to argue on the defensive side against what Nick Henrich and Luke Reimer have done at that inside linebacker spot. I think that Nebraska has those guys for a couple more years, if all goes well, to be able to man that position is a comforting thought for Eric Chinander in the defense.
What about the weaknesses? What about the weaknesses that you would observe, that things that they would need to shore up in order to make sure the team is headed in the right direction?
Let's start with the offensive line. There's clearly a lot of transition and change with the new assistant coach and Donovan Raiola coming in. Nebraska is not proven at the center spot as Cam Jurgens heads off to the NFL draft. It's unclear who on this roster is going to play center. There are some guys who have taken snaps and taken reps in practice and have maybe gotten into a couple of quick situations, like Trent Hickson and Ethan Piper. I think Nuruddin Nouili has a possibility because of his versatility and athleticism and his attitude, that if they were to try to move him to center from guard in the spring, I'm guessing he would take to that well, and he would adapt and give Nebraska a good center. But you may not want to give that up at guard with as strong as he played, as well as he played in his first year starting. You could also look at something drastic like Turner Corcoran and say, hey, maybe this can be his future. But the center spot, along with the entire offensive line, is a weakness. It's more of an unknown. We'll see. They've added a couple of transfers there too. And Kevin Williams, the Omaha North product out of Northern Colorado, Hunter Anthony, the veteran player from Oklahoma State who looks to have the ability to play tackle or slide inside to guard. So there's going to be a lot of competition in the spring on the offensive line, but right now it is not at the top of the list when you look at strengths on the offensive side. On defense, Nebraska loses guys up front with Ben Stille and Damian Daniels at that. So I'm talking about the offensive line, and then I'm talking about the defensive line, and that's a little concerning when you consider how physical the Big Ten is and what the profile of a successful Big Ten team is. Strict. I mean, you need to be good in the trenches. You need to be good on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And Nebraska has some experience. They have bodies. They have guys who've done it on the defensive side up front, with Ty Robinson, with Casey Rogers, with Garrett Nelson, who's more of an outside linebacker, but can play with a hand in the ground as a defensive end. Caleb Tanner, same thing on the other side. I think they like the talent that they have in some young guys like Nash Hutmacher with Blaze Gunnerson at that outside backer defensive end spot. But until those guys go out there and do it in the game, this new look group, that probably is the weak point, or the point with the most questions on defense.
Mitch Sherman of The Athletic joining us here on The Block. And Mitch, I don't think I've had a chance to talk to you since they made the decision on Casey Thompson. Do you think that is an upgrade, I suppose, from Adrian Martinez last year, or kind of what do you think he brings to the table as far as moving forward? Was he the home run they were looking for in the portal?
He was close to it. I don't think Nebraska could have done a lot better with the quarterbacks available. I mean, you're not going to get Caleb Williams. If you're Nebraska, that's unattainable. There were probably a couple other quarterbacks out there. The other one from Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler, I'd probably put in that group. Dylan Gabriel from UCF, who's now at Oklahoma. Keaton Slovis, the transfer from USC to Pitt. Those guys are probably the most accomplished. There were some others. I mean, it's just a crazy year with the portal. Unlike anything we've seen in college football, and the quarterbacks, of course, are the headliners of that group. But yeah, I mean, with Casey Thompson doesn't have the amount of experience playing the position as some of the guys that I mentioned. He has what Caleb Williams does in 1 year, but Thompson's age, his pedigree, as the son of a Nebraska, older Nebraska fans know his father, Charles Thompson, and what a dynamic player he was for Oklahoma in the 80s. So the bloodlines are there. The athleticism is there, even though Texas did not ask Casey to use his athleticism as a runner as much as Nebraska might. Although Nebraska may not with Mark Whipple if he brings the same offense that thrived at Pitt with Kenny Pickett this year. You didn't see much running from Pickett, so. It'll be interesting to see with Thompson how much Nebraska asks him to use his legs. Ideally, you've got running backs, receivers, tight ends to be able to get that kind of yardage. And Casey can be somebody who sits in the pocket and picks apart a defense. I think he has the ability to do that. You saw it against Oklahoma when he was fully healthy in September and one of the first starts of his career, throwing for 5 touchdowns and nearly 400 yards. And then he dealt with a thumb injury, much like Adrian Martinez at Nebraska dealt with the shoulder injury and some issues with the knee, the jaw that he had. It's hard to even remember and list everything that has ailed Adrian throughout his career. And Casey Thompson was similar in playing through pain and showing his toughness at Texas this year in his first season as a starter. So interestingly, you've got a guy with, I would say, some similar characteristics in Thompson coming in to replace Martinez. But, this is what Nebraska wanted. Nebraska wanted a change. Nebraska wanted a different look at the quarterback position, some fresh blood, somebody who could be a new face for that offense and give defenses something else to consider as they game plan against the Huskers. And they've got what appears to be a good one in the Texas transfer.
Mitch, do you envision, I talked about this last hour, is there a possibility that moving on forward with the portal, which is just kind of opening up eyes and just being crazy, you see new additions every day, do you think that it could be somewhat like free agency did for pro sports, where it's just a bit of a disconnect, I guess, from the fan base eventually, where you kind of get this vision in your head that the college athletes bleed Husker red or whatever your personal school would be, and then eventually it's limited because they have only still 4 or 5 years to play, but that there might be that sort of disconnect with so many guys transferring.
I think fans are going to continue to be passionate about the schools that they root for. College sports fans are used to a transient nature of the roster. Maybe even more so than in the pro leagues, because none of these players are here for more than 4 or 5 years, or very few. In this COVID era, you get some 6-year guys or even a 7-year guy now and then, but that's obviously really rare. So you're always looking at a new middle linebacker or a new quarterback, no matter how good that guy is. As a fan, every few years, it's not like you have a Tom Brady or you can go through the different sports and talk about the guys who had such great continuity in one uniform. You have more of that in the pros, despite free agency, and that's really Bach, to address that part of your question. That's really what this portal is it's like free agency. I mean, you saw with Caleb Williams, the OU transfer who I mentioned a minute ago, and how he basically played like free agency. He put himself in the portal, but didn't close off the possibility of returning to Oklahoma. And that's no different than a guy in the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball, whatever it might be, becoming a free agent and considering an offer from his existing club. So I think as we go farther and farther into this era, you're going to see more situations like that. You may see guys go into the portal, and then I'm talking about high profile guys, not like a Feldarius Payne in Nebraska who did it this winter, but high profile guys who go in, test the waters, and decide that the best option is to stay with the school that they were at. And that's that is really difficult for the coaches as they build rosters and as they recruit to plan. You can't plan for that. You don't know what's going to happen from day to day and week to week. So I think in the years ahead, and Nick Saban and Kirby Smart hinted at this a bit in their media sessions before the national championship game this week, that there are going to have to be some rules. There are going to have to be some parameters that exist with the portal. Maybe it's a date like with free agency in the pro leagues where you can pick a school after December 15th, and there's a window where portal movement is allowed, and then when you're outside it, there is a window now, but it's a much larger window than maybe what it needs to be, or what it could be to rein this in and make it more more manageable. Whether it's a window or a limit on in some other way, I think we will see adjustments. We will see changes to the way that the portal works in college sports as the months and years go on.
He's Mitch Sherman of The Athletic. And Mitch had an excellent article about Zach Taylor that I wanted to ask you about, but we are up against the clock, so maybe we can have you on next week. But if you haven't checked it out, go check out some of Mitch Sherman's writing over there at The Athletic. Mitch, once again, thank you for joining us today.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, there he goes, Mitch Sherman of The Athletic. We're going to have to take a break, but when we come back, it's time for Shootout with Strick, your chance to win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings, and it's a gamer day. There was a game last night, so prepare your notes, get ready, and call in 402-464-5685 for your chance to win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings on The Block next.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill has been your go-to in South Lincoln for years, and their second location in downtown Lincoln is now open. Rosie's downtown spot is Lincoln's premier Nebraska party bar with the Sidetrack Band every Friday night of home games and all day for Nebraska home football games. With 34 TVs that are 65 inches or bigger, you'll always have a great view for all the games. Make sure to check out the new Rosie Sports Bar and Grill, now open in downtown Lincoln at 10th and P.
You can search online for hours to find the best electricians in Lincoln and the surrounding area, but I'll save you time. iElectric has been serving their customers for 30 years for both residential and commercial properties. They're experts in everything electrical, from remodeling to new additions, hot tub installations, electric vehicle chargers or EV chargers, lighting, ceiling fans, and more. iElectric takes jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at highelectric.com.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
Ed Orgeron joins us. You have told me before you have a genuine fondness for the state of Nebraska. Why is that?
I always liked Nebraska. Growing up, watching Nebraska, Monty Kiffin, Tom Osborne, the great teams there. I just always liked Nebraska. I just think it's a great school, great state, great football, tough, hard-nosed football players.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers is all about the good and creating more of it. More drive-through celebrations, more weekend traditions, more family dinners and lunches, more car picnics and road trips, more desserts, maybe more second desserts. More celebrating being together as much as we can. There's always room for more good and more Freddy's. Keep the good going with a taste that brings you back.
You hear that? That's the sound of extremely tender and delicious beef from Certified Piedmontese. Prime grade tenderness with a fraction of the fat and calories of normal beef. It's Nebraska-raised product and the official beef of Nebraska Athletics. Change the way you buy beef today at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese, just north of 84th and Havelock, or at cpmercado.com.
Hi, this is Kurt, your shop manager at A1 Automotive here in downtown Lincoln. My promise to you is this: you won't find another automotive repair facility that genuinely cares about you and your vehicle. Our service is outstanding and our customer service is better. Please give me a call for all your automotive repair questions and needs. Call me at 402-477-4660. We were built on small town values, and that shows in how we treat others. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
They say one great thing leads to another, and that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a Ready Next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's going to be great.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Partly to mostly sunny skies and mild conditions expected once again. We'll top out near 55. Winds out of the northwest at around 10 to 20. Heading into tonight, mainly clear. A low dropping down to around 31. One more beautiful day tomorrow with a high of 55, but we're watching a system for Friday that could bring snow to the region. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Do you know the signs of an opioid overdose? Talk to your physician and pharmacist about naloxone, a drug used to safely reverse an opioid overdose. I'm Dr. Rob Rhodes, a Nebraska family practice physician. Be Opie ready and download a free overdose support tool, the Opie Rescue app. Search Opie Ready for more information.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
It's time to play Shootout with Strick. Call now, 464-5685, to take your shot against Eric Strickland. Shootout with Strick. Brought to you by Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Time to play the game!
It's time for our daily game show here on the Block with Strick and Buck. A shootout with Strick. Strick is getting prepared, warmed up for this three-point contest style that we have here. Of course, he did the post-game show. He watched Nebraska, Illinois. That's the theme, I guess, today for the game show. So we'll, if you haven't heard it before, 40 seconds on the clock. I'll ask Strick 4 either-or questions, and then a money ball, which is open-ended. If he gets 2 points. And then the goal from there is for the contestant to beat Strick with the same type of format. So we'll see if we can do that. Strick, are you ready?
Ready.
All right, I'll count it down 3, 2, 1, and Big Sky will hit the music. This is, again, about last night's game. 3, 2, 1. Who was Illinois' scoring leader last night? Trent Frazier or Kofi Coburn?
Frazier.
That's right. Illinois leader in blocks. Omar Payne or Kofi Coburn?
Omar.
That's right. Nebraska's leading bench scorer. Kobe Webster or C.J. Wilcher?
Wilcher.
It was Wilcher. True or false? Nebraska had more turnovers than Illinois.
False.
That's actually true. Moneyball. How many wins does Illinois have this year?
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
11.
1.
Oh, they have 12. So close. That one rounded out and eventually got out there. But 3 points for Strick, a solid score. And we will see if Andrew, who is the contestant, can beat that. Andrew, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I've got my 8th grade son who's much more of a basketball player riding along with me here, so maybe he can help me somehow.
Yeah, maybe he'll help you out. Just maybe hold up a 1 or a 2 in there in the car, maybe. Andrew, are you ready? Are we going to count down from 3, and then we will start the 40 seconds? I'll give you some either-or questions, and then a money ball at the end. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, you got to beat Strick's score of 3. We'll start in 3, 2, 1. Who was Nebraska's leading scorer last night? Bryce McGowan or Alonzo Verge?
McGowan.
It was. Illinois leader in assists last night. Jacob Granderson or Trent Frazier?
Frazier.
Correct. Nebraska leading rebounder last night. Derek Walker or Bryce McGowan?
Walker.
It was. True or false? Nebraska had less assists than Illinois.
9, 8,
Less what?
7,
Assists than Illinois.
5, 4,
True.
3.
It's actually false. How many wins does Nebraska have this year?
5.
Oh, they actually have 6, and the buzzer went off anyway. So you guys tied at 3. That means we go to the tiebreaker. I'll ask Strick a question.
Yes.
Give me, you say over or under for the win there as we go here. Andrew, okay, so Strick, your question. Alonzo Verge is Nebraska's second leading scorer for the year. What is his points per game right now?
14.
Is it over or under 14? Andrew?
Under.
It is actually over. It's 14.2. Therefore, Strick has won the shootout. Thank you for playing.
Flawless victory.
Thank you, anyways, for playing, Andrew. But the third, when Strick wins, the third caller can go ahead and get the $15 from Buffalo Wings and Rings because Strick is a man of the people. He wins for the people to hand out chickens.
Troy is the victor.
Troy is the third caller, so he wins because Strick wins. But we do want to thank Andrew for playing today, and hopefully calling down the line. Yeah, you had 3 points. Usually that does it some days against Strick, but you'll have another chance to win every day as we hand out our $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. We're going to have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will break down that game, Nebraska-Illinois. 10-point loss for the Huskers, but a lot to break down within that game. Just a lot. It's just a fun game, to be honest, in the stretch of not a very fun season so far, but we'll break that down. We also have Andy Markowski, father of Alexis Markowski, set to join us at 5:25, and we'll also do our Hitting the Hardwood segment on the NBA. That's all coming in the next hour on the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket.
You hear that? That's the sound of extremely tender and delicious beef from Certified Piedmontese. Prime grade tenderness with a fraction of the fat and calories of normal beef. It's Nebraska-raised product and the official beef of Nebraska Athletics. Change the way you buy beef today at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese, just north of 84th and Havelock, or at cpmercado.com.
Hi, welcome to Big Chain Bar and Grill. Can I get you a drink? Which game were you hoping to see? Doesn't matter. I don't know what channel the game's on anyway. Are you ready to order? Okay, here's your check. Come back and see us again, okay?
What?
Hey, welcome back into Upside.
Slow down and enjoy the game at the Upside Bar and Lounge. Comfortable seating, plenty of screens, a great food and drink menu, and no one trying to shove you out the door. Come in, hang out, and take it all in at the Upside Bar and Lounge, open daily just east of 27th and Pine Lake.
Brokers Insurance Agency is currently hiring full-time and part-time insurance professionals. They will provide you with the training and education to obtain your insurance licenses. Brokers Insurance Agency takes pride in educating clients with the best insurance program to help their clients meet their specific goals. If you're a hardworking, motivated person and would like to discuss a great career opportunity with Brokers Insurance Agency, please call Ken Richards at 402-420-5353 or email service@brokersinsuranceagencyne.com. The team at Brokers Insurance Agency is looking forward to helping you get started with your insurance career.
If you're thinking about a new career, improving your job skills, or just continuing your love of lifelong learning, Southeast Community College's Spring Continuing Education Catalog is hitting your mailbox soon. It's chock full of options. Learn how to write a compelling grant application, become a pharmacy tech, or even learn to ride a motorcycle. We even provide the bike. Check out your catalog or go to southeast.edu/continuing education. SCC. Your path to possible.
Is your furnace or heat pump ready for winter? Call Bryant to schedule your home heating check. Comfortable, safe, efficient. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111.
Hi, this is Kurt, your shop manager at A1 Automotive here in downtown Lincoln. My promise to you is this: you won't find another automotive repair facility that genuinely cares about you and your vehicle. Our service is outstanding and our customer service is better. Please give me a call for all your automotive repair questions and needs. Call me at 402-477-4660. We were built on small town values, and that shows in how we treat others. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
Breakfast tacos, brisket tacos, pork tacos, chicken tacos. You hungry yet? I can keep going. Pork or chicken, queso nachos, queso mac and cheese, hatch mac burritos. Now you're salivating. Muchachos is Lincoln's premier New Mexico barbecue fusion restaurant. You can't miss them in their bright blue building. Pair that great food with delicious coffee for breakfast and a variety of local and national beers on tap the rest of the day. Order your food online at yomuchacho.com or visit them in person at Muchachos on South 11th Street between L and K Streets.
Security First Bank. We're the bank, and we make your mortgage more manageable with flexible terms, trusted advice, and competitive rates. When you work with us, we'll know your name, but we'll also get to know your home dreams too. Security First Bank of Lincoln. Voted best small bank in Nebraska by Newsweek magazine. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. NMLS number 505011.
Our public school teachers want every child to learn, grow, and succeed. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the NSEA. School's in session, and it's key to build a partnership with your child's teacher. Visit with them and ask for an overview of your child's strengths and areas for growth. Ask for recommendations for activities and opportunities so you can work with your child to harness their strengths and address their challenges.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and the station.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for three. And you're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
93.7 The Ticket veteran and Bill Callahan fan club president, Jake Bakoven.
I love Billy's team.
Coming at you live from the Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach.
Hold up. Welcome back to On the Block with Strick and Bach. Lot to get into tonight. We're going to talk right now about the Nebraska basketball game on last night. It was a tough game, but the Huskers fought hard. They played their heart out, but again, they're not able to get over the hump. It is one of the funniest things that we have to deal with, and we've consistently seen it both in the fall and now in the winter. It's like they're right there on the tip of on the verge of breaking through, and they can't seem to find what it takes to get it done. But nonetheless, they got a hard fought game against a tough Illinois team last night, ranked 25th in the nation. Bach, what's your thoughts on last night's game?
Well, it was certainly exciting, and I thought, I think I could watch just about every Illinois game from here on out. The presence that is Kofi Cockburn, and I thought Nebraska did a great job, and they said as much. Brad Underwood said as much, that Derek Walker did one of the better jobs of guarding him all year, and of course, with Derek Walker guarding him comes also the help side defense, and I think that for the most part they did a pretty good job with that. But just a fun game. I mean, Nebraska was hitting shots early. They took the lead. They kind of had to fight, and we're kind of punching right up there with one of the best teams in the league, one of the best teams in the nation. Of course, the final few minutes it kind of dissolved, but plenty of highlights, plenty of things to run through. I mean, Bryce McGowan's, I think, is starting to take that next step. Certainly he's taking that next step as far as finishing at the rack, where he had 3 huge dunks last night. Some people were a little bit upset with Bryce flexing on that last dunk because Nebraska was obviously in a losing position at that point in time. So a lot of stuff to break down in that game. I was surprised that there was no technical given off the bench for Illinois player who was not dressed, kind of barking a few times and grabbing a ball and shooting it. It was kind of interesting because Nebraska usually has the Trey McGowans or Willem Bredenbach. We saw him last night. Those guys that aren't willing or ready to play are all the way at the end of the bench or even standing up, while he was kind of just among the teammates. I wanted to ask you, is that a standard practice usually? Is an injured guy kind of even sits past the the very end of the bench where the guys that that aren't going to play, or is that just kind of based on the team or the injury or the star power there?
Yeah, it's probably based on the team. Some of it's star power. Some of it, mostly they're towards the end of the bench or just behind the bench, because you normally would have a full team that occupies, that is actually playing, that would occupy those seats. But, being that he's a integral part of the Illinois team, he probably was there on the bench. But nonetheless, Illinois won the game 81-71 there at Pinnacle Bank Arena. It is a thing that's kind of funny. I mean, if you look at the statistics, Illinois shooting 47%, Nebraska shooting 46%, Nebraska actually shooting 6 for 12, 50% from three, to who Illinois, and that's what they do. I mean, their game plan was definitely put into play last night, and that was to put them into a mid-range game, and they only shot 7 for 19 from three at 37%. But the key part of that is they hit some crucial ones late in the second half that caused them to get over. And you would find that a Nebraska team that shot almost 80% from the free throw line, shooting just as many, only 5 less than Illinois, with Illinois shooting 63%, only having 2 more turnovers than them. Everything they did other than rebound, and those rebound numbers really didn't show what it was until late in the game when it's crucial. And that's what it comes down to. In the crucial parts of the second half, they played pretty much a 35, 33 minute game, and it's those 7 minutes, those 5 minutes that they end up coming up short, especially in crucial games. You find a veteran team, mostly Illinois, all of seniors. Their whole starting lineup, there's 4 seniors, only 1 junior, and that's Kofi Cockburn. And at the end of the day, that showed last night the veteran leadership of that team in Frazier, who came through for them, shooting 9 for 18, 3 for 6 from three, with a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. It showed, and that's why they ended up pulling out the game last night. It was very tough, but there were some things in that game, Bach, that I found that was a show point of why they weren't able to get it done. I thought also part of it was crucial rebounds. I mean, a ball ends up hitting off the top of C.J. Reelsher's head. It goes up on the rim, and we find a core of Nebraska players just watching it as Illinois players pursue it. Another instance is a couple of instances where the rebounds were crucial, and you had a situation where Hawkins ends up pulling down a rebound and basically doing a Moses Malone and getting three rebounds out of that situation, ending up with 8, and really would have only had 5. He had 3 just in that one situation, in that one sequence, I mean. So I think they did some good things. They did some positive things. But again, they've got to figure out down the stretch how to play a 40-minute game. They can't take any minutes off, and that ultimately was the difference in this game.
And of course, for any team, when you play Illinois and you have to spend so much energy and effort on Coburn, it's just kind of, when will Illinois hit the threes? And that's what buried them too at the end, is they kind of gave Illinois the opportunity to get those shots, all game long. They were going to live and die. They did a great job actually of chasing them off the 3-point line and getting them to take long distance twos throughout the night. So it turned out pretty well. And then at the end there, they just kind of hit some of those threes that ultimately buried Nebraska. But it's just fascinating team altogether. Brad Underwood, one of my favorite coaches in the league. And they had to recruit Kofi Coburn back this offseason. If you remember, there was a few days where he was just kind of a floating free agent, not just in college basketball, but also potentially going pro. And he just kind of had his mind, had a few weeks there where it's just open. And then he announced his commitment back to Illinois. And so they kind of built that offense around him. So it was just fascinating to watch Nebraska try and sometimes like double teaming him with Tominaga and getting a foul call on that. I just remember it's just they're Tominaga is just so small. I heard you guys having an argument last night, not an argument, but a difference in opinion on if Tominaga should be trying to box out DP, doesn't want him to get hurt. You like you said kind of yesterday, having boxed out Yao Mings before, you kind of say it, no matter what your size, check the guy behind you, try to make sure you can get that rebound. And I agree with you. I just, there's certain a lot of it worked well. I just don't know how effective it would be to ever bring Tominaga to come and double down on Kofi Coburn. He just doesn't have enough size or, to really mean that much to what Coburn is trying to do. But, there was a play there and he got the foul. I don't think he probably should have got the foul. But Nebraska had quite a few of them where they're kind of swiping Illinois' face. And sometimes that happens. But I just think I think overall it was very promising to me because the game plan was set in place. They kind of tried something different as far as not just chucking up a bunch of threes. Like I said, they ran Illinois off the 3-point line for a majority of the night. I just thought everything fit pretty well. The only problem is Nebraska was going to have to play nearly a perfect game to win that one. And there's just a few problems they had. And one that stood out to me again was, I don't know how we've kind of been through this, is that the star players on the team still take awful shots sometimes. And you said it last night on the post-game show where you almost have to have a multiple choice session with those guys, sit them down and quiz them so they know what the bad shots are because they take the same ones. Bryce McGowan's took not just an NBA three, but 3-4 feet behind an NBA three for seemingly no reason, and then tried to flop his way and got a flop warning out of the bad shot. Alonzo Verge was benched earlier this season for taking a fast-baked three. Didn't change the fact that he did it once again in this game. And those are your
and he's shooting 20-some% from three. So that in itself is, one of them.
It was just fascinating to me that those were the very same shots, like the exact same shots they were benched for just a few games ago, as that was a big point for this team. You would think that would translate from game to game, week to week. The hope is that the coaching would translate, but it just didn't. It seems to sometimes still get lost, some of the shots they can take. And I'll throw CJ Wilcher in there. I think that he's obviously a hot hand. He can get going, but you don't get a heat check after making one shot. Tominaga got benched a few games ago for doing that. You have to earn your heat check. Take 2 good threes. If you make 2 good threes within the offense, then you got your heat check. But you don't hit one and then get a heat check automatically the next possession.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, I think what you saw is what it's like to really have, and again, this is no knock on anybody's style of play, but this is what it shows when you have a point guard that actually leads and runs the team. I mean, I saw in 2 instances, they had 2 similar plays where Frazier had the ball. I think one of the things that I like about Frazier is that he's very, there's no extra movements or extra dribbles, right? So when he's purposeful, that's the word I'm looking for. He's very purposeful in what he does, whether it doesn't take him 4, 5, 8 dribbles to try to get by somebody. He's 2 dribbles off the pick and roll, gets to a certain spot, boom, drops a dime on somebody. I saw a couple instances where he drove to the baseline, got deep on the baseline. Normally, there's 2 ways. You either dribble and continue the dribble on out to the Steve Nash, i.e. Steve Nash type, or Chris Paul type, where you hold your dribble and continue it out. In those instances, there were a couple situations where Verge got deep, Kobe got deep, and picked up their dribble, and there's nowhere to go. The thing about that Illinois team is they know where their guys are, and those guys got to space and got to positions. He found a guy in the corner, bang, 3-pointer. There's another one where he gets it, bad shot on the other end. They secure it, come back down, run a similar type of play, dribbles baseline. They cover the 3 in the corner, boom, he whips it out to the guy at the top, and bang, they hit another one. So you get a 7-0 run right there. They missed a free throw, but they get a 7-0 run, and that's the game. That's pretty much the game. I think on the other end, what we found is that there was a difference between a team that knows who they are, that has an identity, and they went inside and they got the ball to Coburn, who found guys as well for great opportunities. But they know where they are. They know who they're going to. They know where they're going to be. And that's another situation. I think as you mentioned also with the double team situation, if you're going to double team a Kofi Coburn, it's just not on catch. You have to go with certain guys like that. There's certain strong guys. Like, we never went to Shaq on catch because he's good at finding the guy off a catch, a look, He's going to find that open guy. You have to go when they make their first dribble. So I think they should have maybe made an adjustment with that. When he takes his first dribble, boom, you shoot at him. You run hard at that second dribble, because then guys they tense up and they get confused and they don't know where to find that next guy at, right? And this usually sometimes can be a turnover situation. So, or it allows you to be able to recover because they pick it up and they really don't know where they're going because they're looking to get into their thing, right? They're looking to get into their, dribble as he was doing in his spin back to the baseline, or his dribble, give you a little shoulder and get to that jump hook. So I think that's kind of where they messed up, because they were firing at him on catch, and he was actually able to find guys.
See, I think that's a good point. And it's something that, kind of stuck with me that one time I was just told on the basketball court, is that if you're going to double, you better steal the ball. I mean, you're not doubling to try to just somewhat be a pest or kind of change. You're leaving your guy wide open. So if you're doubling, you better be either so disruptive that you're getting a steal, or disruptive that the next, the pass out of it is a steal, not just kind of lackadaisical double just because that seems like something to do. And I don't think they were necessarily doing that at times, but I just like to emphasize that sometimes when you see a double, if you're a defender, that's your ball. Go get that ball. That's what you're doubling for. It's not just for show.
Well, when you mention that before your question, when you mention that, and that's getting back to the point where I said, right? The double is either to create an opportunity of steal, but it also to create not necessarily a steal, but that next pass to not be on time, because then that allows you to recover. So if the pass is not on time, it's either not going to be a good shot, or it's not going to be a situation to where they can move it real fast to where you can't recover. So you either want to create it where they're throwing it off time, or an off, not in the pocket, so to speak, where they have to either move or they have to shift, or it's kind of low where it gives you an opportunity to recover. So it's not necessarily, it is a good point, because you do want to create that, but not necessarily always, but it's to create a situation of either confusion in who the next guy is, or it is also to create a bad pass out of the double team, which then allows you to get into your rotations.
Just watching Kofi Cockburn, do you think that he's got a shot at the next level, or do you think he's more of a kind of like a Boban or maybe Taco Fall, or just a guy that probably isn't going to develop? I mean, those free throw shots were tough to watch. He might not be able to develop the shot, but just kind of be a change of pace type of guy at the next level, or do you think he could be in every type of, get 20, 40 minutes a game?
Well, with his size, right? Yes, he's a very physical presence, but he's not Joel Embiid, right? Joel Embiid has a little bit of range. He's very skilled with both hands. But with his size and just the physicality, there's other guys that are just, they're strong too. Their timing, they'll let you take a guy like, some of the best shot blockers in the league will be able to take some of that contact and still, with that space, be able to get to a jump hook or something of that nature, as opposed to in the collegiate ranks. So I think he would struggle, because this game is very spacious. It allows for a skill set to be able to hit certain shots at 15 or beyond. You've got your Jokic's. Yeah, those guys are very skilled in the post, but they're also very skilled in from free throw line extended as well, and they can do a lot of things. I just don't know if he has that skill set yet. So it was good that he came back. Hopefully he can develop that, and if he can develop a little bit of a jumper. I don't know the game today fits what Kofi does, but I think he still is somebody that they would get in there and be able to work on expanding his skill set.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. I mean,
he'll probably go in the second round, late first, maybe, if somebody's looking for some front court help to have a big body. I don't know defensively if he's a presence to be able to be of concern as far as moving his feet. You have to be able to guard in switches and be able to guard in blitz situations a little bit. I just don't know if he has that ability yet.
Yeah, when Bryce M done him, it was one of those things where it's usually you'd think a guy like that, it's a major contest from Kofi, but he's just kind of slow to getting over. He didn't really even contest the jam.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And what I did love, here's what I did love. I loved how Derek Walker took the challenge, both defensively and offensively. And to me, he should have got more touches because he was working out. I mean, he did his thing. They got him the ball. I think there were a few situations, and this is what I talked about on the show last night is there was a couple of situations where they had switches and he had mismatched situations and they didn't recognize it. That's the thing that they've got to be able to do better. They've got to be able to know and understand. And I think what happens is the eyes of the guards light up because they're like, oh, I got this big guy on me. Like Verge or somebody like that, or even McGowan's, they light up and they're like, oh, I got this big guy on. No, you got a guy that's shooting 70% against a mismatch. Get him the ball because why? Not necessarily that he's even going to score. Derek Walker is very skilled enough to be able to make the next play to make sure you get a good shot. So to me, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of, okay, I got this big guy on me. Guess what? I get the ball to him. What does a big guy do? They always drift to the paint. I'm going to get if not a butt naked shot, or I'm going to get a second guy running at me for a good shot fake. I'm into the paint, into maybe a mid-range or into whatever I want to get into. Usually that shot's going to come back to me if I've got a mismatch and I get the ball into a guy who's shooting, because their coaches and everybody and their mama is going to be saying, double, or telling Kofi to get back down there on him. And they're going to try to do a switch, which is going to give me that space I need to be able to get that shot off.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they just got to have to, I mean, with their shooting percentage, you just got to take advantage every time you can. Like you said, it might not even be a shot, but the other teams is doing their scouting report, so they'll know if he's got a mismatch going low, they're going to double, or they're going to, do the best they can to make up for that so he doesn't get a nice look down there. The one thing I did want to ask you, too, is that some Husker fans, I saw it on Twitter, were not happy. First of all, always awesome when a really skinny guy flexes. Bryce is going to have to work in that weight room, but I love the skinny flex. But he had plenty of it. I mean, he looked like he is taking that next step. I still kind of look at mock drafts around the web, and they still have him late first round. So we'll kind of see as he's developing. It seems like he's kind of learning about the physicality in the league, better finisher at the rim, at least as of last night. Do you have a problem with a player? Of course, we always see it with defensive backs or at the wide receiver level in the NFL or whatever it is. If you're down, you're in a losing situation, but you make a good play. Is it okay to kind of celebrate for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, shoot, yeah. I don't care what time it is. I don't have a problem with that. I think one of the things I look at Bryce, and I think I still think he plays too high. And I spoke to DP about that because I noticed that a lot of even his mid-range shots, that's strength. That has nothing to do with your shooting ability. Even his range shots, you notice that his shot's a lot better early than it is late. And that's just strength. That's just strength in your lower body and your hips and your legs. He gets into his mid-range and his shots are coming up short. And it's just because he's not playing from that low center of gravity to be able to elevate and get to high peak in his jumpers to make those shots. That's something I would be working with him on. If I was in on that coaching staff, I would be getting with him, working on different areas, making sure he's taking contact before he raises, because he's still playing too high. So if you're taking contact on your mid-range range, those are good shots. I mean, you get to a certain spot, but you got to be able to raise through the contact and still high peak and make that shot.
And some of the part of it, too, of him playing better is not just what you do, it's what you don't do. Other than that awful errant three that he had, that was the only one of the night. He was 1 of 2 from beyond the arc. And I think he's been trying to force that, show off his NBA range a little bit this year, where I think his three-point percentage would be much higher. Might get less shots off, but much higher if you play within the offense. Also, I wanted to get to this comment from Big Bird off the text line. Good amount of times they went to the rim and made Coburn come over to contest. D-Walk was there to clean it up for the easy bucket. And that, I think that was a big part of the strategy, was knowing that you had Derek Walker there to kind of clean things up. And you have guys that are effective at least getting a shot off. I mean, the one circus shot from Alonzo Verge, basically going under the bucket and basically challenging where Coburn's hand was. He ended up making it, and that's kind of been a complaint at times. But with Verge or McGowan's, they're at least more often than not going to be able to get the shot up. And Derek Walker was there to clean up.
Great point. So that is 2 points to that, right? But then even better than that is understanding and reading, and they had 8 blocks, right? You've got to be able to assess that they're coming. You know what I mean? I mean, that would be like me just being bullheaded and just saying, I'm continuously going to attack Sean Bradley or Manute Bol or Yao Ming or Shaq or Patrick Ewing. And I know they're there. Even though I could, we talked about the fact that you have to be able to get deeper, challenge them with the body, create the space if you're going to get that off. If you take off in the middle of the paint, you take off at the block, you have any space, shot blockers are cleaning that up, right? So that's when you have to read that next play. Yes, you did your job. They came over. Most of the time, most defenses are going to shrink towards Derek Walker, right? So if you can't get it to the glass to allow what happened last night with those cleanup situations, you have to know that next pass is going out. That's where your good threes come from. That's where your Tamanaga should be waiting. That's where your CJ Wilcher should be waiting. Those guys are going to shrink to the paint because they're trying to take away Walker. That's when you do your job, bring the shot blocker over, and then you know where that next pass, you got to know where that next pass is going. And you've got to hit that guy. All defenses can read and react to that first one. That's when that second one is there, whether it's to the top of the key or to the corner. That's got to be their next progression if they're going to beat good teams. If they don't do that, this is going to continue to happen.
Well, and I know I see Andy Markowski will be our guest here in a minute, setting up. So we're excited to get to him in just a second. So we better get to a break so we can bring Andy Markowski in. Of course, we'll talk Husker men's hoops, Husker women's hoops. He's got a daughter, Alexis, doing great for that team. 3-time Big Ten Freshman of the Week. I think it was named the National Freshman of the Week as well. So that'll be pretty exciting. We'll go ahead and take it to break now. On the other side, Andy Markowski, you're listening to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket.
Brokers Insurance Agency is currently hiring full-time and part-time insurance professionals. They will provide you with the training and education to obtain your insurance licenses. Brokers Insurance Agency takes pride in educating clients with the best insurance program to help their clients meet their specific goals. If you're a hard-working, motivated person and would like to discuss a great career opportunity with Brokers Insurance Agency, please call Ken Richards at 402-420-5353 or email service@brokersinsuranceagencyne.com. The team at Brokers Insurance Agency is looking forward to helping you get started with your insurance career.
You hear that? That's the sound of extremely tender and delicious beef from certified Piedmontese. Prime grade tenderness with a fraction of the fat and calories of normal beef. It's Nebraska-raised product and the official beef of Nebraska Athletics. Change the way you buy beef today at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. Just north of 84th and Havelock, or at cpmercado.com.
Is your furnace or heat pump ready for winter? Call Bryant to schedule your home heating check. Comfortable, safe, efficient. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111.
Casey's General Store is giving you the chance at winning 2 free tickets to a Nebraska home basketball game this season. Stop by any Casey's location in Lincoln throughout basketball season. Enter your name into the registration box and you'll have a chance to win 2 tickets to an upcoming Nebraska basketball game. Every drawing will occur at least 24 hours before the game that has its selected winner. So make sure to get to any Casey's in Lincoln today for your chance at 2 free tickets for Nebraska men's basketball games.
If you're thinking about a new career, improving your job skills, or just continuing your love of lifelong learning, Southeast Community College's Spring Continuing Education Catalog is hitting your mailbox soon. It's chock full of options. Learn how to write a compelling grant application, become a pharmacy tech, or even learn to ride a motorcycle. We even provide the bike. Check out your catalog or go to southeast.edu/continuing education. SCC, your path to possible.
Need to send a message? Send it with cake. Congratulations. Here's a congratulations chocolate rum cake from Beatrice Bakery. Thank you. Say thank you with an amaretto cake. I'm sorry that I accidentally hit your mailbox with my car as I was backing out of the driveway and then continued right into your prized petunias. You say that with a lemon drop cake. Everybody knows that. Beatrice Bakery in downtown Beatrice or online at beatricebakery.com. Here to help you say whatever it is you need to say. Welcome to our world of yum. Tune in to the Teammates Mentoring Hour each Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on 93.7 The Ticket. Hear stories from the program started by Tom and Nancy Osborne and how it's changed mentors and mentees' lives and how you can be involved. The Teammates Mentoring Hour, Wednesday nights from 6 to 7 o'clock on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, this is Kurt, your shop manager at A1 Automotive here in downtown Lincoln. My promise to you is this: you won't find another automotive repair facility that genuinely cares about you and your vehicle. Our service is outstanding and our customer service is better. Please give me a call for all your automotive repair questions and needs. Call me at 402-477-4660. We were built on small town values, and that shows in how we treat others. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
Security First Bank. We're the bank, and we make your mortgage more manageable with flexible terms, trusted advice, and competitive rates. When you work with us, we'll know your name, but we'll also get to know your home dreams too. Security First Bank of Lincoln. Voted best small bank in Nebraska by Newsweek magazine. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. NMLS number 505011.
Do you know the signs of an opioid overdose? Talk to your physician and pharmacist about naloxone, a drug used to safely reverse an opioid overdose. I'm Dr. Rob Rhodes, a Nebraska family practice physician. Be Opie Ready and download a free overdose support tool, the Opie Rescue app. Search Opie Ready for more information.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Yay! Joining us on the Block with Strick and Bach is Andy Markowski, former Husker who played with E. Sticky. Yes, sir. Had a good career at the University of Nebraska. Blue-collar guy, finished his career with 603 points, averaging 5 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, and was one of those smart as a whip type of cats. He joined me as well on the academic all Big 8. See, a lot of y'all wouldn't know that. See, well, it was actually Big 12 too. We got a chance to touch a little bit of that. A lot of people don't know East Stricky was not just a dumb basketball player. I joined you with that academic all Big 8, all Big 12 type of team. So yeah, Andy Markowski, thank you for joining us today, man. It was awesome. Out of Ord, Nebraska. He's now the father of one of the stars, up and coming, rising Alexis Markowski, the freshman who now just took over and had Big 10 Women's Freshman of the Week honors. Congratulations, Andy Markowski. Thanks for joining us on the Block with Strick and Bach.
Hey, Strick. Good to see you. Hey, Bach. Happy to join. Yeah, thanks for that long introduction there, Strick. And yeah, you were a very cerebral player and a good student. And I got the brains, and my daughter got the ability, obviously, in our family. So it's been excited to. And she's a smart kid too, but obviously a lot better player than I was.
Awesome, man. So yeah, so we'll start with the men's program. We want to get to the women. We want to give them their just due. They're doing a wonderful job this year, off to a great start. Came up a little short against Iowa, but they still have some promise still left in them as a young and up and coming team and making some noise in the Big Ten. So with regards to your starts to the men's program, you've been around now in Lincoln for quite a while. You're doing some wonderful things there at Lincoln Pius X as well, which we'll get into. But what are your thoughts on the men's team this year? And what do you think there are some things that need to change with regards to the culture compared to what it was like when we played and the things that we experienced in the success that we had there in Nebraska?
Yeah, certainly I thought going into the year, Strick, there was a level of expectation that hadn't been there. You looked at the recruiting, had a few transfers. I thought the end of last season they were competitive, even though kind of COVID hit them, and they were playing a lot of games. I thought I saw some progress, so I was really optimistic going in with just the additions of McGowan's and a few of the returning players and Walker and Mahan and then you add a point guard that averaged 14 in the Pac-12, which is a good basketball league, and it just hasn't meshed well. there's times I feel since Christmas that they've improved. I mean, you look at the Ohio State game, you look at the Illinois game. I think Fred has, asked them to maybe, play a little tighter with the basketball, shot selection, loose turnovers. I thought they've made some progress, but, their margin is still so small in terms of winning in that league. They still make too many mistakes. They fail to make some gritty plays at times when they need to. And, the Big Ten is like the Big 12 when we played, right? I mean, you just don't go into league games and win without doing a lot of little things right. And they just have really struggled. They're shooting the ball better, which has given them a better chance. I think last night they're 6 of 12. But still, just, they're missing, I think some elite size. Walker is holding his own inside, but he's not Big Ten. To ask him to go guard the size in the Big Ten is asking a lot. And to your point on culture, I just don't know if Fred has them all there to win for Nebraska. I still think there's some, guys that are there, maybe there for their own or their own, development aspirations that they weren't getting at the school they transferred to. And when you're not in lockstep at this level, you're going to lose. And that's what they've done up to this point.
Bach, you got a question?
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting because, I think at times it's easy as a Nebraska fan or a fan base to kind of go back to the, Nebraska's never been good at basketball. But you guys played in an era where you were, and there was that kind of expectation for Nebraska basketball to win and win at a high level. How do you think that you can build that culture back into place since it's just been so long that there's been those type of expectations at Nebraska?
Yeah, I've never bought into that. I think that's always been an excuse that, you can't win. There's not a recruiting base. With the Big Ten Network and kids travel nationally, you can go get talent wherever. There's been enough talent in state, if you can retain a few of those kids. So it really comes down to making sure we have the right leader in place. And, I was a big advocate of Fred's. I thought it was a great hire. I still think, potentially with some changes or maybe adding some players that are willing to take on some roles. You can flip, basketball with just a couple players and a couple of small changes here and there. But, watch Texas Tech, right? I mean, have you ever been to Lubbock? Like if you can win at Texas Tech and they upset #1 Baylor, you can win at Nebraska with the right pieces. Strick was a part of a Big 8 title. We were part of an NIT championship. I was a part of a tournament team. I think Strick was a part of 3. We won in the 90s. You can win again, and the facilities have all been upgraded. Everything that we had in the mid-90s, it's 3 times as nice as it was then with PBA and Hendricks and what they're doing for student athletes. So, I don't know what direction they go. I think the program's at a crossroads. I think we're going to learn a lot if Fred wants to be here, if Fred wants to turn this around, if the players want to be here, which players want to be here. I think over the next 60 days, you're going to learn a lot about whether or not they can make the right changes to get this going in the right direction because, they're at Purdue next, right? That schedule doesn't get any easier. It's not like you show up and you got Savannah State next weekend where you're going to win. The wins are going to be hard for this group. Losing's hard. Nobody likes to lose, and losing's going to add a lot of adversity to this group. So I do think we're going to know more in 45 days on the direction of the program.
Yes, and let's transition to the women's side. Your daughter, Alexis Markowski, 6'3" forward, center out of Lincoln's Pius X. She averaged 17 points and 7 and 8 rebounds in the home games against number 8 Michigan and number 22 Iowa, transitioning that into Freshman of the Week honors 3 times now. One of the things about Alexis, she started off with, kind of slow, trying to feel her way, trying to, understand what was needed and what was wanted. She just now really taking over the starting role there. And after that slow start, she's finding herself in the starting lineup. What is it like to see your daughter experiencing that kind of a success so early in her career at Nebraska when she didn't initially choose Nebraska but decided to stay home?
Yeah, Strick, it's been really fun. I mean, Alexis has been a great kid, had a great high school career, is a great teammate first and foremost. So I've really enjoyed the culture that Amy Williams has created. Alexis went in there and was welcomed. There's, returning players. There's 2 returning starters on the front line. So, Alexis knew, that her role was going to go and practice hard and find ways to help the team win. And, as we talk about what's wrong with the men, the women have a pretty good blueprint. I think they're very unselfish. They really like each other. There's a connectivity to the group, and you can see that with the energy and the unselfishness that they play with. You have a nice mix of a transfer in Jazz Shelley from Oregon that really filled a need in terms of going to the point guard position, which moved Habe to the off guard. Alexis, along with Wiedner and Coley, were freshmen that were a top 25 class. They've come in and contributed. Wiedner and Alexis are local kids, so that Alexis has had a blast playing, at PBA in front of her fans and family. So really all of that has aligned. But Alexis, feels good about her choice. She's very passionate about Nebraska. She wants Nebraska to win and play well. She has that pride that I had, and obviously that, UNL is an important part of my history, and now it's becoming an important piece of hers. So it's been, really fun to see her hard work pay off, but more importantly, it's been fun to watch a really good team, get off to a really great start. And they're a borderline top 25 team, which, this program hasn't been ranked in a long time. So exciting, but the season's only halfway home here, Strick. We got a long ways to go.
One more question before I let Bach jump in here, and then we won't hold you too much longer. So after you playing at a high level in the Division I collegiate ball, one of the things we want to do here on the block with Strick and Bach is we want to put our eyes and we want to raise our eyes to the girls and the success that they're having. We're ecstatic about what they're doing and the way that they're playing the game. So you being now a father of a wonderful up and coming player, what are your thoughts about the differences in the men's game and the women's game today? What are some of the things that you see? Because the women, some of the women I've observed, they have great high level skills. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that because you also train players as well.
Well, yeah, I coached. Yeah, I left as a player, and then coached, college men's basketball for 7 years, and then Alexis is our oldest. I have 3 daughters, so I kind of jumped into girls basketball. When Alexis was a 4th grader, so I've had a chance to be on the girls' side more than the boys' side here of the last decade. And girls basketball has really made a lot of progress from a skill level standpoint. They can really shoot it. They can really pass it. They're probably more cerebral because they can't make up for mistakes with their athleticism. So they're constantly kind of a play ahead. But if you watch that Iowa game on Sunday, I mean, you were surprised when the other team missed. I mean, that's it was 94 or 96 to 86. I mean, that level of scoring would be a high scoring game for men. So, really the difference is, girls basketball, you got to block out and rebound in your space where men have the ability to go and, attack the basketball off the rim. So that's one of the major differences. And then the second is that, the game's played below the rim versus above the rim. So girls have to have ability to finish at different angles. And then more importantly, make shots because you just can't get to the rim and score all the time in women's basketball. So I actually think girls are probably more skilled cumulatively than boys, but yet the boys is a little faster pace. But I encourage people to go watch this Nebraska women's team. They just do a lot of things right, and the energy and passion they play with is I think what basketball is. It's being connected, playing for each other, getting on the floor for loose balls, creating extra possessions, and then scoring the basketball at a high clip. So I still enjoy, men's basketball. I watch a lot at home. I've got a young son, but I've really grown the women's game, have put a lot of time into it, and have really enjoyed where it's come for over the last 10 years.
And if you missed it too, Alexis Markowski was named Freshman of the Week by the U.S. Basketball Writers Association today. So congratulations to her and the Markowski family overall. I did want to ask you this off the text line because we like to get our fans involved too. Someone wants to know if you remember shattering the backboard when State Super Shooters was in Ord. Do you remember? Did you have some shattering the backboard moments?
Yeah, that was one of a tough life lesson. So I did shatter a backboard. I did not handle that well. I kind of disappeared just trying to hide, but there wasn't a lot of people that could dunk. So I was quickly suspected of that, and it actually cost me $500. So
They charged you?
Yeah, so my family's insurance deductible was $500. So I had to go out and earn $500 to pay to the high school in order for our insurance to cover it. So first life lesson was to when you screw up, there's usually consequences to it. So that, I don't know who was there. That was a long time ago, probably 1989 or 90. So whoever was there, good question. But yeah, I tried to save the class because Strick, you probably have done it, but I had, like cuts on my back. It was not a fun experience. So
yeah. Last question, Andy, before we let you go. We appreciate you for joining us on the Block with Strick and Bach. It's Andy Markowski we're talking to right now. So after your time, now you're coaching. So you're spending some time with some of the youth and some of the up-and-coming players. What are some of the things that you're trying to do to help the youth become better and to become some of the best players out of the state of Nebraska, and hopefully to lead to a pipeline of where we can have much success there in Nebraska for years to come?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I was given a gift as a good basketball player, tall, had an opportunity to play, coach at a high level. So, I wanted to give that back. But Strick, really, I want to teach them the pace that you have to play with, right, to be successful. I think that's where high school kids, and then they get into college, they don't understand, how hard you got to play, how hard you got to drill. Just in general, the pace that is involved, and you went at a whole nother level, right? So you saw that jump from college to the NBA. So just better, preparing our athletes to go into a Class A or Class B high school, be ready for the pace at a young age, and in college. And really fortunate, Lexus was ready to go. I mean, she said that from day one, that the practice structure and the pace was not a surprise to her. Grace Cave is another player that I had for 6 years. She's a starting point guard at UNO right now as a freshman. So, feel really good that, if you can just put them in an environment with like-minded kids, they need to shoot and ball handle and learn different finishes, and all that is important. I see a lot of trainers spending time with kids, which is great. But the reality of it is, they've got to be tough, and they have to understand the environment that they're going into is really going to be fast and difficult. And that's where I've spent a lot of my time in getting them prepped.
He's Andy Markowski. Andy, thank you for joining us on the Block with Strick and Bach. We appreciate your time, and we will continue to watch the women's success in Alexis, and hopefully that they will be able to jump into the NCAA tournament. Thanks for joining us once again, my friend.
Awesome show, guys. Thanks, Bach. Thanks, Strick. Good seeing you guys.
All right, we'll be back right after this on the Block with Strick and Bach.
Security First Bank. We're the bank, and we make your mortgage more manageable with flexible terms, trusted advice, and competitive rates. When you work with us, we'll know your name, but we'll also get to know your home dreams too. Security First Bank of Lincoln. Voted Best Small Bank in Nebraska by Newsweek magazine. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. NMLS number 505011.
Hi, this is Kurt, your shop manager at A1 Automotive here in downtown Lincoln. My promise to you is this: you won't find another automotive repair facility that genuinely cares about you and your vehicle. Our service is outstanding and our customer service is better. Please give me a call for all your automotive repair questions and needs. Call me at 402-477-4660. We were built on small town values, and that shows in how we treat others. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
If you're thinking about a new career, improving your job skills, or just continuing your love of lifelong learning, Southeast Community College's Spring Continuing Education Catalog is hitting your mailbox soon. It's chock full of options. Learn how to write a compelling grant application, become a pharmacy tech, or even learn to ride a motorcycle. We even provide the bike. Check out your catalog or go to southeast.edu/continuing education. SCC, your path to possible.
This is your High School Minute.
With your Southeast Community College High School Minute, I'm Harris Narns. In basketball over the weekend, Lincoln Pius X gave Lincoln Northeast their first loss of the season. Northeast now sits at 10-1, and Pius sits at 7-4. The Pius girls would win over Lincoln Northeast as well, winning 50-42. Columbus won over Lincoln High 54-48, but the Lincoln High girls would win over Columbus 63-25. DC West beat Lincoln Lutheran 47-42, and the girls for Lincoln Lutheran won in their matchup over DC West 58-17. Gretna got a win against Lincoln North Star 57-53, and the Gretna girls would also win 59-35. Hastings SC won over Lincoln Christian 56-49. Barrier would finish with 20 points for Christian in the loss. Lincoln East got a big win over Fremont 62-47. Templemeyer would lead the team with 18 points in a win for Lincoln East. This has been your High School Minute, sponsored by Southeast Community College, with locations in Lincoln, Beatrice, and Milford. Learn more today at southeast.edu.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Partly to mostly sunny skies and mild conditions expected once again. We'll top out near 55. Winds out of the northwest at around 10 to 20. Heading into tonight, mainly clear, a low dropping down to around 31. One more beautiful day tomorrow with a high of 55, but we're watching a system for Friday that could bring snow to the region. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Do you know the signs of an opioid overdose? Talk to your physician and pharmacist about naloxone, a drug used to safely reverse an opioid overdose. I'm Dr. Rob Rhodes, a Nebraska family practice physician. Be Opie Ready and download a free overdose support tool, the Opie Rescue app. Search Opie Ready for more information.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Need to send a message? Send it with cake. Congratulations. Here's a congratulations chocolate rum cake from Beatrice Bakery. Thank you. Say thank you with an amaretto cake. I'm sorry that I accidentally hit your mailbox with my car as I was backing out of the driveway and then continued right into your prized petunias. You say that with a lemon drop cake. Everybody knows that. Beatrice Bakery in downtown Beatrice or online at beatricebakery.com. Here to help you say whatever it is you need to say. Welcome to our world of yum. Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Casey's General Store is giving you the chance at winning 2 free tickets to a Nebraska home basketball game this season. Stop by any Casey's location in Lincoln throughout basketball season, enter your name into the registration box, and you'll have a chance to win 2 tickets to an upcoming Nebraska basketball game. Every drawing will occur at least 24 hours before the game that has its selected winner. So make sure to get to any Casey's in Lincoln today for your chance at 2 free tickets for Nebraska men's basketball games.
Breakfast tacos, brisket tacos, pork tacos, chicken tacos. You hungry yet? I can keep going. Pork or chicken, queso nachos, queso mac and cheese, hatch mac burritos. Now you're salivating. Muchachos is Lincoln's premier New Mexico barbecue fusion restaurant, and you can't miss them in their bright blue building. Pair that great food with delicious coffee for breakfast and a variety of local and national beers on tap the rest of the day. Order your food online at yomuchacho.com or visit them in person at Muchachos on South 11th Street between L and K Streets.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Wrapping things up here on the Block with Strick and Bach. It is time for Hitting the Hardwood, our daily NBA segment with our former NBA player Eric Strickland. And today, Strick, I did want to get into a bit of something that was kind of fun last night, I suppose, out there in the NBA, especially for one of the star players of the NBA having problems in Toronto. The Raptors kind of dealing with a COVID situation as far as Toronto was concerned, so no fans were allowed at the game. Devin Booker, of course, an all-star, steps to the line for the Phoenix Suns to try to hit some pretty clutch free throws. He did end up making them, but he was very frustrated by the Raptor, the mascot of the Toronto Raptors, trying to distract him while shooting his free throws. Is this something that you've ever seen? And is it bad as an NBA player to let the fans, let anybody know that you can be distracted at the free throw line?
So bad. I mean, I guess this generation would have a problem playing in Missouri back in the day or in Oklahoma State back. I mean, the fact that there's an empty gym and there's one person who is a mascot, that's what you do. Could you imagine Tiger Woods or somebody like, or not, I'm not even going to say golf, but could you imagine somebody doing a sport and they're telling you not to be in the fairway, or, not to stand there or not to move, or that's crazy. You practice to do what you do. There's people in the stands. So now you're going to tell everybody in the stands, don't wave their hands, don't flash, your girlfriend or whatever. That's crazy to me, but I digress. This is a different generation, I guess. I don't know.
I'm going to be very interested the next time the Suns head to Toronto and they have a full gym. And I just think in general, wherever he goes, he's going to get a lot of distraction. Yeah. And for what it's worth, the Raptor and Devin Booker made up on social media. So no need to worry. There's no ongoing beef.
Why would the Raptor have to apologize for anything? You're standing in the stand. I can understand if you walked on the court in the middle of the paint and you stood there or stood next to him trying to shoot. That's a whole different thing, right? But in the stands, you kidding me? Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It must be because there was just nobody else there that it bothered him, because usually there's a gym full of people trying.
They got spoiled. They got spoiled playing in the bubble, I guess.
I guess so. Another thing I wanted to hit on is just infighting on the team. I don't know if you've ever had a situation like this, but last night, KCP and Montrezl Harrell had to be separated going to the locker room because KCP didn't pass the ball to Montrezl at some point when he wanted it. Is that something that kind of blows over usually? Is just a little bit of steam in the locker room? Or is that something that can kind of linger, like the Rondo Ray Allen situation in Boston there a few years back?
That's crazy. It happens. And normally in instances, it normally goes away. I mean, this wasn't a Gilbert Arenas, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name where they pulled guns out. That's not that situation. It normally happens. You have heated moments. I mean, you saw it with the Lakers at one point when I can't remember who it was, but a couple of the players got into
Howard it. Maybe AD.
Dwight Howard and AD. That's right. Yeah, it was them. Where they get into it and, you address it, you deal with the situation. It's heated. You get into a little heated moment, and normally it'll pass away. Your teammates, you're going to sit on a plane with each other. It's one of those things that happens, right?
Yeah. So hopefully that will blow over. We got plenty more NBA things to cover. Trev Alberts today asking for input on stadium upgrades. So go ahead and head to Twitter if you want to have any of those. We'll cover some of that tomorrow. Of course, Nebraska basketball getting back into action, I believe Friday. So plenty of stuff to break down the rest of the week, but we'd like to thank you for joining us today, as well as the thanks to Andy Markowski and Mitch Sherman at The Athletic for joining us today. Had a wonderful show. We'll bring it back to you tomorrow. Thanks to Strick as well. Have a good night. That's right, that one.